Chapter 407. Pissed off Pinliang felt a little awkward, his face covered in dirt. Yao Yao threw it? Then it's fine. The crowd looked at him in disdain. Meng Yao threw it. And it was fine? How could there be someone this shameless? She was just yelling about how she was going to beat him up. It wasn't me. I haven't finished my drink yet. Meng Yao frowned. Naturally, she knew that Yushu was messing with Pinliang, but she didn't want people to misunderstand her. She threw a bottle at Pinliang? She didn't even want to hit him. Who did he think he was? With that, Meng Yao took out her drink from her desk and shook it in front of Yushu. Will you die if you don't talk nonsense? I'll pull out your tongue again. Oh, I'll stop, but I won't fall for it again. I won't open my mouth. Yushu covered her mouth. Pinliang's eyes were blazing with fury. Yushu was clearly messing with him, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't afford to piss off Yushu. Her brother Chen Yutian aside, Yushu was Meng Yao's best friend, and he didn't dare piss her off. Pinliang could only vent his anger on someone else. I'll count to 3. Who threw the bottle? Step out now, or I'll show you what I'm going to do. Pinliang was really getting agitated. He'd been suppressing his anger time and time again, and now it was all out. He was about to explode. All right, I threw it. Xiao Xiao wasn't expecting this reaction from Pinliang, but seeing Lin Yi looking at her with a smile on his face, she could only stand up and admit it. Even if she didn't, Lin Yi would expose her anyway. But she was wrong. Lin Yi didn't care about something like this, especially when it was Pinliang who got beaten up. Even if he died, it had nothing to do with him. Pinliang didn't think that it was Xiao Xiao who threw the bottle. His face twisted. Pinliang felt like he was going to die. He didn't dare piss off Lin Yi, nor did he dare piss off Meng Yao and Yushu. But Xiao Xiao right now was something he couldn't afford to piss off. Lil sis Xiao Xiao. It's fine now. Pinliang held his breath as he sat back in his seat. He felt like a balloon, ready to explode at any moment. However, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't afford to offend them, so he could only hide. Pinliang didn't just embarrass himself a little. The students in the class wanted to laugh, but they didn't dare. Pinliang, on the other hand, knew that he'd embarrassed himself. He wouldn't have stood up if he'd known this was going to happen. He'd shouted 3 times, and it was all embarrassing. How unlucky. Damn it. Ever since Lin Yi transferred to this class, everything has been going wrong for me. Pinliang punched the wall angrily. He could only vent his anger on the wall. Brother Liang, bear with it. When Paozi returns from the mountain, it will be the time of Lin Yi's death. Xiaofu already knew where Naipeo was going, and so he was looking forward to seeing him return after completing his studies. Yeah, but now that he's here, I can't even get Meng Yao. My relationship with Meng Yao is getting worse and worse. Pinliang said angrily. Well, those tricks from before aren't working either. Xiaofu was a good strategist after all. But, Liang bro, you need to hurry up. You're graduating soon, and it'll be even harder when you go to university. If we're not in the same faculty, it'll be hard to even see each other. You're right, I need to hurry up. Pinliang nodded. Do you have any good ideas? None of my ideas are working, and I haven't come up with anything yet. Xiaofu shook his head. Forget it. I'll think of something else. Pinliang didn't know what to do. The last class ended, and before lunch break, Lin Yi finally stood up to leave the classroom. Xiao Xiao was overjoyed to see him, and quickly gestured to Pinliang as she called him. You go first, clear all the other boys in the washroom. I don't want to see people using the washroom when I go in. Pinliang took the order and rushed to the washroom with Xiaofu. They had to clear the washroom before Lin Yi came. Otherwise, Xiao Xiao wouldn't be happy if there were other people in the men's washroom. Clear the place. Clear the place. All of you, get the hell out of here. Pinliang didn't dare say anything to Lin Yi, but to these students, he was very cocky. It didn't take long for everyone in the washroom to leave, but there was always an exception. A boy with a cigarette in his mouth walked out from a stall, glaring at Pinliang. I say, Liang, you're really something, aren't you? I was just smoking, and you came out? It was so Ruoming. Others might be afraid of Pin Liang, but he wasn't. He was pissed that Pin Liang had disturbed him. Pin Liang wouldn't dare start a fight with Zhou Ruoming normally, but today was different. He curled his lips after Zhou Ruoming was done. Ming bro, Xiao Xiao has something to do here later. Don't say I didn't warn you, but if you want to stay here and cause trouble, then stay. Ah, Xiao Xiao has something to do here? Ruoming paused, the cigarette in his mouth falling to the ground with a thud. He didn't even bother picking it up. Why didn't you say so earlier? With that, she ran out of the bathroom, not bothering to talk to Pin Liang anymore. Pin Liang smiled as he watched Zhou Ruoming run away. It didn't take long for the washroom to become empty. Pin Liang and Xiaofu stood at the entrance, one on the left and the other on the right. They were like two door gods, stopping anyone who wanted to use the washroom from entering. Lin Yi walked to the washroom door and saw Pin Liang and Xiaofu standing there. He was confused. What are you two doing? It's nothing. It's nothing. We're waiting for someone here. Pin Liang said quickly. Boss Lin, you need to use the washroom? Welcome. Come in. Lin Yi frowned. Was there something wrong with these two? But he still went into the washroom. There wasn't a single soul in the washroom, and Lin Yi subconsciously raised his guard. Pin Liang and Xiaofu weren't good people. So why would they be waiting in front of the washroom? Was there something going on? Hey, what happened? Did he go in? Xiao Xiao and Lin Yi walked to the washroom door, but Xiao Xiao was afraid that Lin Yi would notice her. She didn't see Lin Yi walk in. Chapter 408. The toilet rained again. Xiao Xiao nodded. Satisfied. Very well, I'll be going in then. You guys keep watch. Don't worry, Lil Sis Xiao Xiao. Pin Liang nodded. Xiao Xiao took out her phone and set it to camera mode before tiptoeing into the men's washroom. To be honest, she was quite nervous right now, since this was her first time in the men's washroom. Xiao Xiao had been a rebellious girl all these years, and she didn't even blink when she stabbed someone, but she couldn't help but blush at the thought of going to the men's washroom. Xiao Xiao closed her eyes and decided that she'd just walk over and take a bunch of pictures. She was using it to blackmail Lin Yi anyways, so it didn't matter if the pictures were bad or not. Lin Yi was going easy, but he kept his guard up. Lin Yi's heart tightened when he heard the footsteps behind him, but there was no glass in front of him this time, so he couldn't see what was going on behind him. Lin Yi didn't even need to guess to know that it had something to do with Pin Liang. Why else would he be standing at the door with Xiaofu? What Lin Yi didn't understand was why Pin Liang was so retarded, using the same trick twice. Didn't he remember the lesson from the artificial rain? The jade had a very small warning, meaning that the person wasn't going to kill him, but there was still some hostility. Since it was an enemy, Lin Yi didn't care anymore. He turned around just like last time. Since you've used the same trick twice, I'll let you do it again. Xiao Xiao was walking forward with her eyes closed, ready to take a picture of Lin Yi when it started raining. She gasped subconsciously and opened her eyes to see what was going on. What she saw made her face turn pale. This wasn't rain. It was Lin Yi's piss. Xiao Xiao screamed again, covering her eyes subconsciously, but her hand was full of water. It was piss. Xiao Xiao was furious and disgusted. Lin Yi, I'll kill you. After saying that, she couldn't be bothered to pat Lin Yi anymore. She covered her face and hurriedly ran out of the restroom. Pin Liang and Xiaofu, on the other hand, had been paying attention to what was going on inside the washroom. When Lin Yi used the same trick, Pin Liang knew that this was bad. As expected, Xiao Xiao was drenched in water. She was probably going crazy now, wasn't she? Xiao Xiao stood by the faucet outside the washroom, furiously washing her hair and face with the water. Her body was covered in urine, but there was nothing she could do. She couldn't wash her clothes too, could she? That would be transparent. After washing her hair and face, Xiao Xiao went downstairs. She needed to go buy some clothes and find a hotel to take a shower. She was about to explode. Pin Liang and Xiaofu didn't know what to say as they listened to the Audi TT's engine roar and watched as Xiao Xiao disappeared in her car like a puff of smoke. Xiao Xiao was probably going crazy from the anger this time. She'd better not vent her anger on the two of them later. You two, get in here. Lin. He was scared out of his wits. He never would have thought that it would be Xiao Xiao who entered the washroom. But when he saw the phone in Xiao Xiao's hand, he could guess what was going on. No wonder this girl was so nice this morning, asking him if he was thirsty, even offering him a drink. She wanted to take a picture of him going to the washroom. Lin, he felt a little awkward about getting Xiao Xiao drenched in the rain. She wasn't Pin Liang or Gao Xiaofu. After all, she was a girl, and while her motive wasn't pure, wasn't what he did a little too dirty to her? Whatever, he'd let her learn a lesson. Otherwise, she'd bother him all day. But Pin Liang and Xiaofu were guarding the washroom door. Lin, he wasn't planning on letting them go so easily. It was obvious that Xiao Xiao was the main culprit, and these two were accomplices. Why else would they be guarding the door? Pin Liang and Xiaofu looked at each other, a bitter smile on their faces. They thought that after Xiao Xiao took a picture of Lin Yi would focus all his attention on her and ignore the two door gods. But now that Xiao Xiao was gone, it was only the two of them left. Pin Liang wanted to run, but he knew that as long as he was in Class 5, he wouldn't be able to escape. Lin would catch him sooner or later, and it was only a matter of time before he got beaten up. He might as well make it as soon as possible. Pin Liang and Xiaofu walked into the washroom with their heads down, a little scared. Boss Lin Yi, it's not our fault. It's Xiao Xiao. She forced us to do this. Is that so? Lin Yi asked faintly. Yes, it's her. Pin Liang nodded quickly. Boss Lin Yi, you don't know how strong Xiao Xiao used to be. She's the fourth of us big four, the last one, but that's because she's a girl. She's a lot fiercer than us. Pin Liang wanted to divert Lin Yi's attention to Xiao Xiao so that he wouldn't pay attention to them. Oh, is that so? Lin Yi looked at Pin Liang. He wanted to know what kind of person Xiao Xiao was, or he'd be annoyed by her every day. Yes, there was a boy who tried to hit on her, and she kicked him in the balls. Also, there was a gangster who tried to rob the school, and she stabbed him until he was crippled. Pin Liang said, So, Boss Lin Yi, she's too fierce. We're not even on the same level. We can't not help her. I see. Lin Yi nodded. Then let's forget about it. Thank you, Boss Lin Yi. Thank you, Boss Lin Yi. Pin Liang and Xiaofu were overjoyed that Lin Yi wasn't going to pursue the matter anymore. Don't celebrate too early. Let's not forget about this matter. There are other things. Lin Yi said faintly, even if she forced you to do it, what do you think would happen to you two if I told her that the two of you had already been drenched in the rain once, but I didn't warn her and let her take the risk? What do you think would happen to the two of you? Wouldn't you get your balls kicked in? Wah! Pin Liang was stunned, not expecting Lin Yi to threaten him. But he was really scared now. If Lin Yi really told Xiao Xiao about this, he'd die a horrible death. Xiao Xiao would probably drive him to the toilet with a knife and force him to eat shit as an apology. Chapter 409. Chapter 409. I'll go see you. Pin Liang scolded himself silently. The reason why he didn't mention it was because it was simply too embarrassing. Nai Peo and Xiaofu hadn't been able to beat Lin Yi at all, and they'd been put in such a difficult position. How could he talk about something as embarrassing as that? But now he regretted it. If he'd known this would happen, he'd have warned Xiao Xiao, even if it meant embarrassing himself. He was done for now. If Xiao Xiao found out the truth, the consequences would be dire. Boss Lin Yi, you wouldn't do this to us, would you? Pin Liang begged, his face bitter. He'd rather get beaten up by Lin Yi. Two choices. 1, kneel in the toilet for 10 minutes and leave, or I'll tell Xiao Xiao the truth. Lin Yi said, All right, I'll kneel. Pin Liang felt disgusted by kneeling in a toilet full of urine, but compared to telling Xiao Xiao the truth, he'd rather kneel on the ground or he'd die a horrible death. All right, I'm leaving. Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to deal with these two idiots. He just wanted to teach them a lesson, and whether they kneeled or not depended on themselves. Lin Yi said, "You can try to fake it, but I might be everywhere." "Don't worry, Boss Lin Yi." Pin Liang shivered. He'd wanted to wait for Lin Yi to leave before leaving, but Lin Yi's words scared the shit out of him. Come to think of it, Lin Yi really did seem to be everywhere. Every time he was feeling good, he'd be there to mess things up. Pin Liang was speechless. Was Lin Yi sent by the heavens to purposely go against him? Can Xiaofu and I take turns kneeling? We'll have someone to keep a lookout. Whatever. 10 minutes per person. As long as it's enough. Lin Yi turned around and left. Kong Xiaobo took advantage of the lunch break to look for Xiaofan. The knot in Xiaofan's heart was untied, and she became much more cheerful. Kong Xiaobo's heart seemed to have been set, and his contact with Xiaofan became more frequent. Lin Yi guessed that he was looking for Xiaofan to discuss the future of university, so he didn't disturb him. Instead, he called Tang Yun, but he was surprised to know that Tang Yun wasn't at school either. She went to the hospital to take care of her father for lunch. During the day, Mrs. Tang resumed her business at the food street behind the school. The task of bringing lunch to Tang Juqing fell on Tang Yun's shoulders. Mrs. Tang prepared the food at home and brought it to school. She then set up a stall to do business, and Tang Yun brought the food to the hospital. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I'll just send you there." Lin Yi frowned. Tang Yun took the bus to the hospital alone, and it would take up a lot of time. "I was afraid that you would be busy, so I didn't want to disturb you." Tang Yun was happy to hear Lin Yi's words. "I thought you sent Kong Xiaobo back to find Xiaofan. Why would I send him back if he's looking for Xiaofan? He's not my wife." Lin Yi was speechless. Idiot. Tang Yun understood the meaning behind Lin Yi's words. If she was his wife, why would he send her back? What did he mean by sending her to the hospital? Was she his wife? "Haha, I'll go pick you up and I'll check on Uncle Tang's condition." Lin Yi had nothing to do in school, and it would be troublesome when Xiao Xiao came back. It was better to leave now. "Okay, I'll wait for you in the ward," Tang Yun said. Tang Yun wanted to reject it at first. Lunchtime was tight, and she didn't want Lin Yi to run around, but he said he wanted to check on her father, so she agreed. "See you later." Lin Yi hung up and went to the food street behind the school to get his car. Tang Yun put her phone away happily, but when she turned around, she saw her father smiling at her. Tang Yun felt a little embarrassed. Mr. and Mrs. Tang didn't object to Lin Yi's forceful intervention. Tang Juqing had to thank Lin Yi for the surgery. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, he would still be lying at home. "Is it Lin Yi?" Tang Juqing asked. "Yeah. He said he wanted to see you." Tang Yun knew that Lin Yi had medical skills, but she thought he only knew a little. But after what happened yesterday, Fatty lying kneeling on the ground and crying Lu Tiany's flattery towards Lin Yi and Xu Amin's respect towards Lin Yi, Tang Yun was completely shocked. Even when she arrived at the hospital, she was still unable to calm her excitement for a long time. It seemed that she had underestimated Lin Yi. Lin Yi wasn't like what she had imagined, a rich young master who used his family's money to bully others. Lin Yi's arrogance was completely based on his own ability. If it wasn't for Lin Yi's ability, why would he be respected and recognized by so many people? Fatty Lai didn't know the details. Maybe he was hot-headed, but Lu Tiany and Xu Amin wouldn't be hot-headed as well, would they? It seemed that Lin Yi's medical skills weren't as simple as a little bit. It was extremely shocking. Tang Yun was proud of Lin Yi, but at the same time, her fragile heart was also a little hesitant. Lin Yi was so outstanding. Was she worthy of him? Would he not want her in the future? Her family didn't have money, and she couldn't help him much. The only thing she could say was that she was a little prettier, but there were so many beautiful girls out there. Why did Lin Yi choose her? Tang Yun didn't want to think about these things. They were still young, and there was still a long way to go before marriage. But seeing how outstanding Lin Yi was, Tang Yin couldn't help but think about these things. Lin Yi prepared to go to the food street behind the school to get his car. Nowadays, the food street vendors had reserved a parking space for Lin Yi every day. Who would dare to mess with this young master? Mrs. Tang's business was booming as well, and no one dared to be jealous of her anymore. Anyone who dared to be jealous would be looking for death. Everyone, including Zhang Biaoqiao, was very polite to Mrs. Tang. Mrs. Tang hadn't come to the stall for a few days, and no one dared to take her spot. When Mrs. Tang came, everyone greeted her warmly and asked why she hadn't come for a few days. Mrs. Tang was flattered, but at the same time she felt more and more grateful to Lin Yi. Her family was finally doing well. She believed that things would only get better and better in the future. Her business was doing well, and her man had his surgery. She believed that he would be able to stand up soon. Even if he couldn't walk normally, it wouldn't be a problem if he limped a little. He would be able to help her with her work. Mrs. Tang's face was full of smiles as she thought about her bright future. She looked a few years younger, and the male vendors all looked at her in awe. Chapter 4:10. Welcome. Lin Yi saw that Mrs. Tang had opened her stall in the food street behind the school. He walked over to greet her with a smile. Annie, business back? It's been a few days. Your Uncle Tang's fine now, so I'm going to open my stall. Mrs. Tang had wanted to talk to Lin Yi a bit, but Lin Yi took out his car keys. You going out? I'm going to the hospital to pick her up and see Uncle Tang. Lin Yi nodded. Then hurry up and go. Be careful on the way. Mrs. Tang was overjoyed to hear that Lin Yi was going to pick up her daughter. Nothing was happier than seeing how well Lin Yi treated her daughter. Right? Have you eaten yet? Not yet. We'll talk about it when we get there. Lin Yi didn't hide it. Just in time. I've got 2 chicken drumsticks here. Eat them first. Don't starve. Mrs. Tang said, as she quickly put some seasoning on the drumsticks and handed them to Lin Yi. Lin Yi accepted the drumstick with a smile, nodded to Mrs. Tang, and got in the car to leave. Ling Shan rushed to Songshan's First People's Hospital the moment she received the report. The 6th. It was already the 6th. Ling Shan rubbed her temples, feeling the pressure. It hadn't even been a week, and there were already 6 cases of homeless beggars or disabled people getting their kidneys cut off and dumped near the hospital. This wasn't just a simple crime anymore. Ling Shan guessed that it might be the work of a criminal gang. How is it? Ling Shan got out of the police car and saw her subordinate, Lu Wangli, standing in a corner with a police tape. Captain Song, the victim's been sent to the emergency room, and I'm sending people to investigate the scene. This isn't the first crime scene. The victim's left kidney was cut off and dumped here. The time of the crime is estimated to be around 4 in the morning, and the victim was left here around 11 in the afternoon. There's too many cars going in and out of the hospital, and we haven't found any witnesses yet. Wang Li reported with a bitter smile. He knew that Ling Shan was under a lot of pressure. This was the 6th case, and it wasn't a joke. Although the higher-ups didn't specify the time to solve the case, it was only a matter of time. The victims were all beggars, homeless people, and handicapped people, but they were still important to Ling Shan. No matter who they were, Ling Shan had to work hard to solve this case. Bring the mastermind to justice. Ling Shan nodded weakly. How's Lu Bujia? Lu Bujia was the victim of the murder maniac from before. Although Lu Bujia didn't say anything, Ling Shan hadn't stopped investigating him. Finally, she found a rather suspicious clue. At around 6:00 on the night Lu Bujia's family was killed, someone called the police from the public phone booth in Lu Bujia's neighborhood. According to the operator who answered the call, there was a man who panicked and said that he had discovered an organ trafficking ring and that it was likely that they had already discovered him. He wanted to seek police protection. He didn't make any sense at the time, and he didn't give his contact number either. The operator could only ask the police to contact the public phone booth, but no one picked up. They sent people to the phone booth, but they didn't find anything out of the ordinary, so they could only retreat. The incident passed just like that because no one paid much attention to it. However, Ling Shan only found this clue when she checked the call records that night. Organ trafficking ring? Could it be related to the 6 kidney cases? Only now did Ling Shan feel that Lu Bojia's family had something to do with the kidney case. Lu Bojia still hasn't woken up, and he's on a ventilator every day. The doctor said that once the ventilator is removed, he'll die. Lu Wangli sighed and shook his head with a bitter smile. What he meant was that there was no need to waste any energy. Ling Shan frowned, but there was nothing she could do. She knew Lu Bojia's situation, and she always hoped for a miracle to happen. Even if it was just for a moment, it'd be enough to give the police some clues. But the miracle didn't happen. Before Lu Bojia was attacked, he kept quiet every day, as if he was afraid of something. If he got tired of being interrogated, he'd tell Ling Shan that his family was already dead, that he was already miserable enough, and that he didn't want to die, so he asked Ling Shan to let him go. At that time, Lu Bojia was still in the hospital, so Ling Shan wasn't too worried. She thought that after Lu Bojia was discharged, she'd strengthen her psychological attack, and she'd be able to get some information out of him. But something unexpected happened. Beep. Lin Yi pressed on the car horn twice, wondering why this song girl was blocking the entrance of the hospital. Was she even going to let him pass? When the other cars saw Ling Shan and Lu Wangli standing in front of the hospital in uniform, as well as the police investigating something, they all took a detour and entered the hospital from the back door. Only Lin Yi dared to press on the horn. What are you honking for? Don't you know how to enter from the back door? Ling Shan was a little annoyed. She was thinking about the case in her head when a car horn interrupted her. She couldn't help but frown. You think everyone's like you, getting into the police force through the back door? Lin Yi curled his lips, mocking her. Ling Shan only realized now that it was Lin Yi who was pressing on the horn. Her face paled when she heard what he said. What did you say? Who's getting in through the back door? Who knows? Lin Yi curled his lips. Move aside. I still have things to do. I don't have time to waste with you. With that, Lin Yi started the car, wanting to enter the hospital. Wait. Ling Shan suddenly stood in front of Lin Yi's car, not letting him go. The more impatient Lin Yi was, the more Ling Shan didn't want him to get what he wanted. I have something to talk to you about. Lin Yi slammed on the brakes, stopping the car. He was a little speechless, I say. Dumb girl, even if your crime-solving rate is low, you don't have to think about suicide, do you? Even if you want me to run you over, you should find a place with no one around, right? You're trying to scam me in front of all your underlings. I won't be able to explain myself even if I run you over. You. Ling Shan was furious, gritting her teeth as she glared at Lin Yi. If you call me dumb girl again, or that I got into the police force through the back door, I won't be polite to you anymore. So you've been very polite to me all this time? Lin Yi laughed. Then I'd really like to see what you'll be like. You're welcome to do so. Chapter 411. Did you think I'm a fortune teller? In actuality, the police had heard it, but they'd misunderstood, thinking that Lin Yi was Ling Shan's rumored boyfriend. Who would dare talk to Ling Shan like that? Ling Shan wouldn't let him live. Would she? Lin Yi, I need to talk to you about something serious. Ling Shan gritted her teeth as she pulled open Lin Yi's passenger door and got in. It didn't matter if Lin Yi was lucky or lucky in the previous cases. He'd solve them anyway. Ling Shan just so happened to run into Lin Yi, and since the guy was still so cocky, she'd use him again. Let's see if he can solve another case. Oh, what is it? Lin Yi rolled his eyes. She was begging him to do something right after scolding him. This woman's brain structure was quite something. Don't come to me if it's serious. I'm pressed for time. Ling Shan's eyes widened. What did she mean by don't come to him for serious business? Did she have to come to him for anything other than serious business? I'll give you a minute to speak. Lin Yi parked the car in the hospital's parking lot and someone came to collect the parking fee. Lin Yi pointed at Lingshan. This is our Captain Song. She's here for a case. The person who collected the parking fee knew that there was a case near the hospital, and so he took one look at Lingshan's uniform before sticking a free sticker in front of Lin Yi's car window and leaving. Lin Yi didn't really care about the few kwai parking fee, but the problem was that this old woman had overcharged Lin Yi 5 kwai last time, saying that Lin Yi had parked for 2 hours when Lin Yi had parked for an hour. She'd even pointed at the time on the sticker and showed it to Lin Yi. Lin Yi knew that the woman must have written the time a little earlier when he parked, but he couldn't be bothered to argue with her. He paid the money and left, but the school only had a 1-hour lunch break, so how could he park for 2 hours? Lingshan was here this time, and he'd be able to take advantage of her. Lingshan didn't know what was going on, but seeing how Lin Yi was using her to save 5 kwai on parking fees, she glared at Lin Yi with disdain. There's been a lot of cases of beggars, homeless people, and disabled people getting their kidneys cut off and dumped in front of the hospital. Do you know about that? I think I heard it mentioned in the news. When Lin Yi was driving in the morning, he seemed to have heard it mentioned on the radio, but he didn't pay attention to it. Lin Yi rarely paid attention to things that had nothing to do with him. What do you think? Do you know who the murderer is? Lingshan asked. Lin Yi looked at Lingshan oddly. I don't think you should be asking me that. Oh. Lingshan blinked. Do you think I'm a fortune teller who can predict the future? Only a master can answer your question. Lin Yi shrugged. All right, it's a waste of time talking to you. I'm leaving. Wait. Lingshan pulled Lin Yi back. Then how did you catch those bank robbers last time? How did I catch them last time? I told you. Lin Yi was getting impatient, but Lingshan wouldn't let him go if he didn't explain things clearly. He could only patiently explain. I can help you catch criminals, but you have to give me a range. I'll only help you when you're sure. Otherwise, I'll really become a god. Lingshan thought about it. Lin Yi was right. If he knew everything, then he'd really be a fortune teller. Then I'll look for you when I have something. Lingshan didn't want to let Lin Yi go. All right. Lin Yi nodded and walked into the hospital. Lingshan followed Lin Yi to the hospital. She wanted to check on Bojia's condition and asked the doctor if there was any hope for him to wake up. The police officers guarding Bojia's room all stood up and saluted when they saw Lingshan. Captain Song. Lingshan waved her hand. Is the doctor here? The doctor is in the office. Captain Song. Follow me? One of the officers said. Lingshan nodded and followed the officer to the doctor's office. The officer introduced, This is Bojia's main doctor, Dr. Yang. Hello, Dr. Yang. I'm Lingshan. Lingshan politely shook hands with the doctor. Dr. Yang. How's Bojia's condition? Is there any chance of him waking up? I've tried my best, but there's no effect. Dr. Yang smiled apologetically. Captain Song, there's nothing else I can do. I can only maintain it for now. So, you're saying that there's no chance for him to recover from our hospital? Lingshan looked at the doctor, disappointed. Is there any hope if we transfer him to another hospital? Our Songshan's first hospital is the best hospital in Songshan. We can only transfer him to another hospital out of town, but I'm afraid the patient can't handle it. Dr. Yang shook his head. So, there's really no hope? Lingshan sighed. This Bujia would have caught the culprit if he'd told them the truth earlier. At that time, that psychopathic murderer might not even bother looking for him anymore. It's not that there's no hope. Dr. Yang hesitated. If you know Professor Guan Shuamin from Songshan's Medical University, you can try acupuncture. But he doesn't do it easily. Professor Guan. Lingshan naturally had heard of this name. He was a famous Eastern doctor in Songshan, known as Miracle Dr. Guan. Huai Juan had a good relationship with him and had been treating him all this time. Lingshan wouldn't be so sure if it were someone else, but with Huai Juan's help, Professor Guan would definitely be able to make him do it. Lingshan felt relieved at the thought. Thank you, Dr. Yang. I think I have an idea. Haha, it's nothing. I'm just trying my best. Dr. Yang nodded with a smile. Ling Shan dialed Huai Juan's number after leaving the doctor's office. Song, you're in trouble again? Huai Juan picked up the phone with a smile on his face. He'd been in a good mood lately. Not only had he been promoted, but most importantly, the number of times his injuries had flared up had decreased. It had been half a month now, from once a day to once a day. This was only the first stage of treatment, and the results were already so obvious. Lin Yi said that he'd change his bandages and add acupuncture after a month. Just how powerful would that be? Huai Juan was looking forward to it. Young bro. Ling Shan was a little embarrassed. Huai Juan had hit the nail on the head. I do have something to ask of you. Speak, what is it? Huai Juan had always treated Ling Shan as his little sister, and so he took special care of her. Chapter 4:12. You still need to find Lin, Eve. Who is it? Huai Juan asked. Professor Guan, the one who's been treating you, young bro. Ling Shan called Huai Juan bro young in private. It sounded more intimate. Oh, Elder Guan? Huai Juan blinked. If you're looking for him, then don't go looking for him. Go look for Lin Yi. Look for Lin Yi? Ling Shan blinked as well. What for? If you look for Elder Guan, he'll recommend Lin Yi to you as well. Huai Juan smiled. Ling Shan was still a little puzzled. Why was Huai Juan telling her to look for Lin Yi all the time? Was Lin Yi omnipotent? She'd asked him to help her catch the culprit, but he didn't know about it. Why would he have a solution for Lu Bujia? But Huai Juan must have his reasons for saying that. Ling Shan didn't trust Lin Yi that much, but she trusted Huai Juan 100%. With that thought, she dialed up Lin Yi pushed open Tang Juqing's door and walked in. The father and daughter were talking about something, and Tang Yun immediately shut her mouth when she saw Lin Yi. Her face reddened. Why didn't you knock? Tang Juqing was all smiles. Lil Yi, you're here? Come sit. Get your classmates some water and peel an apple. No need for that. Lin Yi waved his hand. We don't have much time for lunch. I'll go back with Tang Yun after checking on your injuries. All right, what should I do? Juqing was very happy. His daughter had told him about the miraculous scene yesterday, and he was both satisfied and panicking at the same time. He didn't know if Lin Yi would be interested in his daughter. It's fine, Uncle Tang. You can just lie on your side. Lin Yi walked over with a smile and took out a box of silver needles from his pocket. It was the one he used to perform acupuncture on Lu Zhenhu, and he'd kept it with him ever since. Okay, Tang Juqing quickly cooperated with Lin Yi and turned his body sideways. Lin Yi seemed to be casually poking a needle into Tang Juqing's waist, making Tang Yin jump in fright. She patted her chest in relief when she saw that her father didn't seem to be affected by it. Do you feel anything? Lin Yi asked. No. Tang Juqing shook his head slightly. Lin Yi frowned and began to turn the needle handle in his hand. Then he asked, Do you feel anything now? No. Tang Juqing shook his head again. Lin Yi's expression froze slightly. Juqing didn't see it, but Tang Yin did. She couldn't help but feel nervous, but she didn't dare to ask. She was afraid that her father's happy mood would fall to the bottom again. How do you feel here? Lin Yi changed the position of the needle. A little, numb. Tang Juqing responded this time. My waist feels itchy. Ah, it's all right. It's not a big problem. Lin Yi smiled. Is that so? That's good. That's good. Juqing was overjoyed to hear Lin Yi's words. His daughter had told him a lot about how amazing Lin Yi was before Lin Yi came, and now that he saw Lin Yi's amazing acupuncture skills, he was even more impressed. Uncle Tang, forgive me for being blunt. Your left leg is fine, but there's something wrong with your right leg. Lin Yi didn't hide it. He didn't need to hide it anymore. He'd find out after a few days. Ah, only one leg. Isn't that a cripple? Tang Yin said subconsciously, startled. She realized that it wasn't the right thing to say. Her father would be upset if she said that in front of him. Oh, only one leg can move? That's not bad. It's much better than lying on the bed and not being able to do anything. She can even help her mom. Juching didn't think too much about it. It was only a short moment of shock before he recovered his happiness. It was fine as long as he was stronger than he was now. What was the point of asking so much? It's good that you have this mentality, Uncle Tang. Lin Yi thought that he'd have to comfort Juching, but he didn't expect him to be so open-minded. It saved him a lot of words. But don't be discouraged, Uncle Tang. I'll give you acupuncture a few times when you're fully recovered. Then I'll bring the herbs from my hometown. You can get rid of your crutches then. Really? Tang Yin had already accepted reality helplessly, but her eyes widened when she heard that Lin Yi had a way. There's a way? Uncle Tang's situation is similar to Fun's. So, of course, there's a way. Lin Yi smiled. So, Uncle Tang doesn't have to worry about it. It's just a neurological problem. That's good. That's good. Jucheng was overjoyed when he heard this unexpected surprise. He thought that there was no hope, but Lin Yi said that it could be cured. Thank you. Tang Yin pursed her lips. There were many words of gratitude in her heart, but when it came to her mouth, it became the simplest word. Heh, isn't it a piece of cake? Lin Yi smiled. His phone rang. Lin Yi made an apologetic gesture and took out his phone. He looked at the caller ID and didn't want to pick it up. It was Ling Shan. What was this girl doing calling him again? Was there something else? Who's calling? Why aren't you picking it up? Tang Yin looked at Lin Yi curiously. Miss Brain Dead, Lin Yi said and hung up. Miss Brain Dead? Tang Yin paused. She didn't know who Lin Yi was talking about. It's Song Ling Shan. You've met her before. I helped her rescue a hostage last time, Lin Yi said. Oh, Officer Song. She must be looking for you for something important, right? Why aren't you picking up? Tang Yin remembered. What if you need her help in the future? Tang Yin had been struggling at the bottom of society for too long. To her, it was good to have a friend, especially a powerful police officer. It would be easier for her to help in the future. Trouble her? It's good enough that she doesn't trouble me. Lin Yi's phone rang again. It was Ling Shan again. Lin Yi had no choice but to pick it up. Hello? Miss Braindead, are you done? What else do you want? Lin Yi and Tang Yin didn't stop even after a few sentences. Naturally, he was angry. Ling Shan didn't know how to pick a time to call. Ling Shan wanted to say, who are you calling Miss Braindead? But she held it back. She needed help from Lin Yi, so she was prepared to be scolded. All right, Miss Braindead wants to talk to you. Chapter 413. Chapter 413, Changing Tactics. Ha! Speak. What's up? Lin Yi was happy. He didn't really want to pick up the call. But what else could Lin Yi say when Ling Shan admitted that she was Miss Braindead? Ling Shan was overjoyed upon hearing Lin Yi's words. This Lin Yi was amenable to coaxing, but not coercion. It seemed like she'd have to change her tactics a little when she asked for help, making it hard for him to reject. The person that the psycho stabbed that day, do you have a way to wake him up? Ling Shan asked. Which one? The one in Guan Xian's room? Lin Yi thought about it. The only psycho he knew was the one from that day. That's right, he's unconscious right now, and he's being kept alive by a ventilator. Do you have a way? Ling Shan asked hopefully. Oh, Lin Yi had actually checked on Bojiao's condition that day. It was very serious. Can you do it or not? Ling Shan pressed after seeing Lin Yi's silence. What's in it for you? Lin Yi asked after some thought. Benefits? Ling Shan was about to say nope, but remembered that Lin Yi wasn't part of the police force, and he had no obligation to help her all the time. I can apply for an honorary police officer position for you, and you'll get some salary every month, but not a lot. Not interested. Lin Yi rejected immediately. What kind of benefits was that? He'd probably be forced to work for Ling Shan all day just for that little bit of salary. Then what do you want? Ling Shan asked. I'll write it down first. I can't think of anything right now. Linny didn't want any benefits right now, but he was just saying it out of convenience. Helping Miss Song was the same as helping Huaijuan. After all, it had to be Huaijuan's doing, after all, and he had to give Huaijuan some face even if he didn't help Ling Shan. Where's the patient? I'll go take a look. He's in the ICU on the 12th floor. You'll see him when you get up. We have people at the door. Ling Shan was still wondering what benefits Lin Yi would ask for, not expecting Lin Yi to agree so easily. Okay, wait for me. Lin Yi hung up and turned to Tang Yun. Are you coming with me? Go and do your work. I won't get involved. I'll accompany Dad down there. Tang Yin hesitated. Ling Shan was very pretty, and it gave her a sense of urgency, but from the looks of things, Lin Yi didn't like Ling Shan at all. He wouldn't be calling her an idiot otherwise. Moreover, Lin Yi wasn't there to play. He was busy with official business. Okay, I'll find you later. Let's go back to school together. Lin Yi nodded and walked out of the ward. Lin Yi took the elevator to the 12th floor. Sure enough, as soon as he stepped out of the elevator, he saw 2 police officers sitting at the door of a ward. Lin Yi quickly walked over. Mr. Lin Yi, right? Captain Song is waiting for you inside. The police officers at the door nodded to Lin Yi, indicating that he could go in. Lin Yi walked in and saw a large ventilator with a person lying under it. It was Lu Bujia from the other day. He was very thin and haggard. Ling Shan was standing beside the ventilator, not knowing what to do. She quickly asked when she saw Lin Yi come in. Lin Yi, do you have any ideas? Lin Yi didn't say anything. He walked over and checked on Bujia's condition. After a while, he slowly shook his head and said, It's very troublesome. But Lin Yi didn't say it was impossible. It meant that he had a way. Ling Shan's nervous heart relaxed. You have a way. Yes, but I don't think it's worth it. It's a waste of energy. Lin Yi shook his head. Ling Shan gritted her teeth. She didn't think that Lin Yi was putting on airs. Dr. Yang had already explained the situation. Even the hospital couldn't do anything. If Lin Yi had a way, it wouldn't be easy. Miss Braindead, I'm begging you. Okay? Ling Shan clenched her teeth as she spat out the words. She knew that Lin Yi could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. Although the nickname Miss Braindead made her want to die and drag Lin Yi down with her, she had to endure it for the sake of Lin Yi's work. She swore to herself that if Lin Yi were to fall into her hands one day, she wouldn't let him get away scot-free. I'll try. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. He couldn't reject Ling Shan's request. But my medical skills aren't good enough. I can only wake him up, but I can't guarantee how long he'll live. There are too many problems in his body. So you're saying that you still have a chance to heal him and not just wake him up? Ling Shan understood what Lin Yi meant. I can't, but my old man is close. Lin Yi said, but my old man won't come. If you want him to die, I'll wake him up now. If you want him to live, don't touch him for now. Let him lie down first. Ling Shan was in a difficult position. She wanted to find clues as soon as possible, but if Lin Yi had a chance to heal Bujia, she would rather not have this clue. She didn't have a way before. Getting Bujia to say a few words was already good enough, but now that Lin Yi had a way, she couldn't sacrifice an innocent person for nothing. Call me when you're done. I'm going back. Lin Yi knew what Ling Shan was thinking. He smiled. Lunch break time is limited. Don't think about it. Wait until you have a way to heal him. Ling Shan shook her head. Oh, Lin Yi was surprised. He didn't expect Ling Shan to be this decisive. He had underestimated her. Her sense of justice and responsibility was quite strong. All right, I'll try my best. I'll give you an answer as soon as possible. This time, it was Ling Shan's turn to be surprised. She didn't expect Lin E to say something like that. Every time she looked for Lin E, he'd always give her all sorts of excuses and excuses. But this time, he said that he'd try his best, and as soon as possible. Lingshan couldn't get used to this. Wasn't this a little too fast? Could it be that her soft attitude brought about the effect? It had to be. As expected, he was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. Then Miss Braindead will wait for your call. Lingshan felt that it was very awkward to say it out, but fortunately her men were outside. No one could see them. She could just treat it as a whisper to Lin E. As long as the kid was willing to help, it didn't matter if she was a little brain dead, who asked him to be stronger than her. Lin E acted as if he didn't know Lingshan at all. She'd called him Miss Braindead 3 times already, and was willing to call herself Miss Braindead for help. Chapter 414. A strange analysis report. Lingshan finally exploded as she watched Lin E leave. She clenched her teeth and swung her fist at the wall. Lin E, I'll punch you to death. You bastard. How dare you give me a nickname? Miss Braindead. Miss Braindead. You're Miss Braindead. Pung, 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 pung. Lingshan threw 5 punches in one go, only stopping when her hands started hurting. She stormed out of the room, her 2 lackeys sitting up straight. They'd heard the commotion in the room, too, and knew that Lingshan was pissed. They didn't want to mess with her, right now. Fatty Lai couldn't believe his eyes. His old man was awake. Not only was he awake, he could talk and eat. Dad, are you all right? Are you all right? Fatty Lai was so excited that he almost fainted. I'll go get the doctor. Wait for me. Fatty Lai dashed out of the room and shouted, Doctor? Where's the doctor? Someone come. What's wrong? What's wrong? The doctor thought that something had happened in the room and rushed over. But when he entered the room, he realized that Fatty Lai's father was awake. Doctor, please check on my dad. Is he all right? What Fatty Lai wanted to do the most right now was run to Lin Yi's side and kowtow a couple of times. What a benefactor. The doctor frantically called for a nurse to do a checkup on the old man, but the report surprised him even more. All the indicators were clearly much better than before, and while the uremia wasn't completely cured, it was getting better. How is this possible? How is this possible? The doctor stared at the report in his hands, dumbfounded. He'd just told Changtian yesterday that there was nothing he could do, so why was Elder Lai awake today? This didn't make any sense, right? The doctor suddenly remembered something. This Lai Changyi had gotten some pill of life extension and toxin cleansing from God knows where, and wanted to give it to Elder Lai. Could it be that the pill was working? Other than that, he couldn't think of any other possibilities. At that thought, the doctor hurriedly asked, Mr. Lai, did you give your father that pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? I've taken it. How was it? It's effective, right? Heh, I told you it would work. Fatty Lai was grinning from ear to ear as he looked at the report. Not even half of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had such miraculous effects. If he could get his hands on a whole pill, wouldn't his father's illness be under control immediately? Fatty Lai, on the other hand, didn't expect his father to fully recover. As long as the disease was under control, it would be fine. The old man was getting on in years, and it was his only wish to live as long as he could. It's really effective. The doctor wiped the sweat on his forehead. I've never seen such a miraculous effect. Mr. Lai, forgive me for being blunt, but you should bring the old man to that expert. I can't do anything about it. The doctor had received a lot of red packets from the Lai brothers, so he told the truth and pointed out the right path for Fatty Lai. Sigh. Fatty Lai's face turned sour at the doctor's words. Would the expert even care about me? The doctor shook his head, thinking that it was true. If the expert really was the expert, he wouldn't care about a crybaby like Fatty Lai crying all the time. He was an adult. Shouldn't he be ashamed? Then let him rest in the hospital for now. I'll try my best. The doctor said, "Oh, right, you have to keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone." Fatty Lie suddenly thought of something and reminded her, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." The doctor nodded. "Am I an idiot? Not only will I offend you, but it won't do me any good either. If I keep quiet, the outside world will think that I cured old Lai, and my reputation will increase." Lai Chongtian's face was very ugly as he rushed to the hospital. His father was really awake, and he seemed to be in good spirits. He didn't think that his brother would be able to wake the old man up by a fluke. But this meant that the agreement Lai Chang'e had written was no longer effect. The old man was still alive, and Lai Chang'e had no right to decide the ownership of the electronics park. Chang Tian could only give his best wishes and congratulations to the old man, but in his heart he was thinking of ways to trick the old man into making the agreement he signed with Lai Chang'e a reality. Donghai, how's Kang's villa? Dr. Kong looked at the analysis report in his hands with a strange expression on his face. If it weren't for the fact that this report was personally verified by Kong Ming himself, Dr. Kong would have thought that he was being played. Dog poop? The main ingredient of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is dog poop? Are you sure you're not mistaken? Dr. Kong stared at the report, his face full of disbelief. No. Xiaolong shook his head. Grandpa, I've had people analyze it many times, and the conclusion is that it's most similar to dog poop. Dog poop? Could it be that dog poop has something to do with life extension and toxin cleansing? Dr. Kong couldn't understand how dog poop could have such an effect. But Grandpa, I really do feel great. After Kong, Xiaoming got what he wanted. He didn't pretend to be sick anymore. The next day, he appeared in the living room of House Kong, full of energy and vigor. Grandpa, I feel much better. I won't lie to you guys. I used to have a weak kidney, but now, hee. Kong Ming didn't continue, but everyone understood what he meant. He was the most useless playboy in the family, always hanging around with women. No one doubted his words. Xiaoming, you really feel great? Dr. Kong found this very strange dog poop could be used to treat illnesses. Yeah, Grandpa, I really feel great right now. Kong Ming nodded, as if he was showing off a treasure. Grandpa, actually, I think that the main ingredient of this medicine is dog poop. It's not that surprising. Oh, what do you mean? Dr. Kang's interest was piqued. If it were in the past, he wouldn't have paid any attention to this grandson. He was just a playboy, using his family's name to eat and wait for his death. But ever since Kong Ming used his own body to test the medicine, Dr. Kong started to value Kong Ming more. He wanted to hear what he had to say now that he had something to say. Chapter 415, Kong Family Alliance by Marriage Slap. Miracle. Dr. Kong slapped his thigh as he stood up excitedly. You've woken me up from my daydream. You've really woken me up. Xiaoming, you're right. If urine can cure diseases, why can't poop? Yeah, Grandpa. Don't people say that dog poop stinks? That proves that dog poop stinks. And no one has ever eaten dog poop before because it stinks too much. Kong Ming said. But it's possible that someone accidentally discovered the secret of dog poop and created this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. In fact, it's possible that this thing is made up of dog poop. Grandpa, Xiaoming's right. Xiaolong couldn't let Kong Ming steal all the limelight. He used to be the best of the younger generation in the house, so he quickly interjected. Grandpa, I think so too. Look at this so-called dog treasure. It's just a stone in a dog's stomach. If it were any other animal, the stone would be trash, but it's a treasure in a dog's body. So I don't think dog poop is a bad thing. It's probably the main ingredient of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Yeah, Xiaolong's right. Dr. Kong nodded. I didn't dote on you guys for nothing. With you two brothers in this generation, House Kong will be even more glorious. I'm glad. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is made, You two will be the biggest contributors. You two will get the majority of the shares. Thank you, Grandpa. Xiaolong and Kong Mingming were very happy they'd gotten the shares of the new medicine with just a few words. It was too easy. How about this, Xiaolong? Get someone to collect some dog poop, and we'll do an experiment. Dr. Kong ordered, make the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing as soon as possible. House Kang's status will rise even higher this way. The golden creation medicine from before will be a piece of cake. No problem, Grandpa. I'll get someone to do this right away and get it done as soon as possible. Xiaolong nodded. Yes, very good. Miracle Dr. Kong said. There's another important thing I need to talk about. It's about your marriage. Xiaolong. My marriage? What do you mean? Xiaolong blinked. I don't have a girlfriend yet. What marriage? Xiaolong was different from Xiaoming. Xiaoming was a playboy, changing girlfriends more than he ate. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was different. As the rising star of the third generation of House Kong, he had too much hope placed on him from a young age. Although he wanted to date and find a girlfriend, he was a man of great self-control and ambition. He gave up on love without hesitation. Even if there was a girl he liked. He'd off. He Kong. Konged on. He Li up. He of Mingshan. He didn't all. This was the main reason why Dr. Kong thought so highly of him. He didn't understand why Dr. Kong brought up his marriage. Ha! It doesn't matter if you have a girlfriend or not. I've arranged a marriage for you, and the girl is very pretty. It's a big family. What do you think, Xiaolong? Dr. Kong asked. Isn't this a little too fast? Grandpa, I haven't finished my doctorate yet. Xiaolong was startled. It was too sudden. It's not fast. You're already a doctorate. Many people bring their kids with them. I even had a second uncle when I was your age. Dr. Kong waved his hand. Xiaolong, you have to understand that this marriage is very important to our Kang's reputation in the upper class. Even though we've made a name for ourselves with golden creation, we're still a merchant family with a miracle formula. I may be called Dr. Kong, but that's just out of respect. I'm not a miracle doctor at all. So if House Kong wants to rise to the ranks of the big families, other than working hard ourselves, we have to connect with other families through marriage. Of course, those big families don't care about us. They don't want to connect with us through marriage, but some of the poor families are more than happy to do it. But no matter how poor they are, they were once big families. They have a certain level of status and prestige. As long as we're together, House Kong will rise. It's all up to you, Grandpa. Xiaolong nodded after some hesitation. If that was the case, then his marriage with the other side would be the key to House Kang's success. He'd become a hero, and his position in House Kong would rise as well. This was a good thing for him. Xiaolong only hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Grandpa, which family? Yanjing's Xiao family. Dr. Kong said. The Xiao family's elder Xiao was a little muddle-headed in his later years. He signed a couple of fraudulent contracts, pretty much giving away most of the Xiao family's assets. The Xiao family's brothers were in a mess, and in order to protect the Xiao family's position, the only option was to connect through marriage. There was one more thing Dr. Kong didn't say. It was that House Kong wanted to rise to the ranks of the big families, and the two families would be a perfect match. All right, I have no objections. Xiaolong nodded. All right, since you've agreed, I've brought the picture of the girl. Have a look. If it's okay, I'll send the betrothal gift. Dr. Kong said. We'll find a date to hold the engagement ceremony and confirm it. Our family's reputation will rise as well. Even though the Xiao family doesn't have much money now, they still have their connections in the business world. House Kang's medical group can use their connections to expand on a large scale. All right, Grandpa, I'll arrange it. Xiaolong nodded. It didn't matter if the girl was pretty or not. The important thing was that Xiaolong's position in House Kong would be confirmed through this marriage. If she wasn't pretty, then he'd accept it. If she was pretty, then he'd just take it. This is the girl's picture. If you like it, you can go talk to her yourself. You young people should be able to get along well, Dr. Kong said as he passed a picture to Xiaolong. Even though she's not from the same family, the girl's father isn't someone to be underestimated. He runs a medical chain company in Songshan, and he'll be our helper. Xiaolong was overjoyed. He didn't think that the girl's family would be so good. His position in House Kong would be even greater. Xiaolong took the picture and glanced at it casually, but his eyes couldn't move away. Chapter 416. About Lin, Bro. I'll give you some advice. Kong Ming Ming went over curiously, wanting to see what his future sister-in-law looked like. One look, and he realized that his bro had really hit the jackpot. Why wasn't he the one getting married? How unlucky. Bro, you've hit the jackpot. I've seen countless girls in my life, and this is one of the best. Out of all the girls I know, only that bitch Tang Yun can compare to her. The worst part is that Kong Xiaobo got her before I even got her. Everyone in the family knew what kind of person Kong Mingming was, so they just laughed it off. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was really happy. Even his playboy brother said it was good. It had to be a goddess. Don't worry, we'll find you a good one in the future. Xiaolong said to Kong Mingming, but you're better than me. I'll only have one in my life. How many do you have already? Haha, of course. Kong Mingming didn't feel ashamed at all. Instead, he felt proud. But Kong Mingming's actions were nothing compared to his contributions to the family. Dr. Kong and the others didn't think that Kong Mingming was sick in the head. It'd be a waste if one wasn't a playboy. Xiaolong was a good student, and Kong Mingming was a playboy. They weren't lonely in the family. Xiao Xiao rushed into a clothing store with her hair dripping wet under everyone's weird gazes. She bought a new set from the inside out before driving to the nearest hotel, taking a hot shower and changing into a new set of clothes before heading back to school angrily. She didn't want to let Lin Yi go, but she didn't know Lin Yi's trump card. Lin Yi looked like he was a good fighter, and his reflexes were super fast too. She'd been discovered the moment she snuck into the washroom. No wonder Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming weren't his match. This was evident from the fact that he was Meng Yao's bodyguard. Peng Zhan wouldn't have hired him if he wasn't strong enough. It seemed that he had to thoroughly understand Lin Yi before he made his next move. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would suffer a great loss again. With that thought, Xiao Xiao decided to ask Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming about Lin Yi. When Xiao Xiao got back to school, Pin Liang and Xiao Fu had just finished changing as well. They'd been kneeling in the toilet for a long time, and their pants were quite dirty. Lil sis Xiao Xiao. Pin Liang didn't want to, but he couldn't pretend that he didn't see her at the school gates. Otherwise, things would get worse. You two, get over here. Xiao Xiao pointed at Pin Liang and said coldly. Pin Liang and Xiao Fu's hearts skipped a beat. Could it be that Lin Yi didn't keep his promise and told Xiao Xiao about what happened? The two were scared out of their wits. They carefully walked up to Xiao Xiao and smiled. Lil sis Xiao Xiao, what's wrong? It's not our fault. We didn't know that Lin Yi would turn around all of a sudden. That's not what I wanted to talk to you about. Xiao Xiao frowned, a little unhappy. She didn't even mention it. Why did you bring it up? What was the meaning of this? Were you trying to humiliate her? Ugh. Then Lil sis Xiao Xiao is looking for us. Pin Liang let out a breath of relief after hearing Xiao Xiao's words, but he was also a little fearful. It seemed like he'd been an idiot. How could he just bring up something as embarrassing as Xiao Xiao's? Of course, she wouldn't be happy about it. Get Zhou Ruoming here, too. I have something to talk to you guys about. Xiao Xiao ordered. Ugh. Okay, I'll go get him now. Xiao Fu volunteered. He was Pin Liang's henchman. How could he let Pin Liang run errands for him? So Ruoming was actually quite easy to find. He played basketball almost every day and Xiaofu could spot him easily. Ming bro! Ming bro! Over here! Xiaofu called out to Zhou Ruoming. What's up? Zhou Ruoming was about to go in for a layup when Xiaofu called out to him. He jumped up in fright and let go of the basketball, displeased. Can't you wait until I'm done? Lil, sis Xiaoxiao's looking for you. Xiaofu said. Fuck, why didn't you say so earlier? So Ruoming jogged over, a shocked expression on his face. You two idiots. You pissed off Lil sis Xiaoxiao this morning, and now you're dragging me down with you? You're so mean. So Ruoming knew a thing or two about what happened to Xiaoxiao this morning. Pin Liang didn't go into detail, but it was obvious that Xiaoxiao was taken advantage of, and so Zhou Ruoming was quite afraid to go see her. It's fine. Lil sis Xiaoxiao didn't mention that, so don't bring it up. I think she's just asking us about Lin Yi. You'll know when you get here, Xiaofu said. Let's go. Don't let Lil sis Xiaoxiao wait too long. All right, I'll go now. So Ruoming nodded and left the school gates with Xiaofu. Xiaoxiao brought them to a coffee shop beside the school and got straight to the point. Why don't you guys tell me about Lin Yi? I'm sure you guys know about how I got taken advantage of by Lin Yi today. This Lin guy doesn't look like a normal person. So Ruoming looked at Pin Liang and Xiaofu. Logically speaking, what happened to Lin Yi was a nightmare and a humiliation to them. Everyone had been dealt with by Lin Yi in different ways, and it was a little embarrassing to talk about it now. What, you don't want to talk about it? Xiaoxiao frowned. And no, Pin Liang and Xiaoxiao were in the same class, and they'd seen each other all the time. He didn't want to piss her off. I'll talk first. When Lin Yi first transferred here, he kicked me in the face. I wasn't happy, so I wanted to get back at him, and so Pin Liang started talking about his grudge with Lin Yi, all the way until Heibao Bro came to school and got his face stepped on by Lin Yi. So you're saying that even gangsters aren't his match? Xiaoxiao was a little surprised. She'd already guessed that Lin Yi wasn't weak from how he pushed the cart with one arm, but she didn't expect Lin Yi to be this strong. Even the gangsters with guns were beaten to the point of looking for their teeth on the ground. Of course, Pin Liang didn't tell her about Heibao Bro breaking through to Golden Class. She'd be even more shocked if Heibao Bro still wasn't a match for Lin Yi. Chapter 417. Chapter 417, Car Accident. Xiaoxiao was speechless. She'd wanted him to have some conflict with Lin Yi today, but now it seemed like he didn't dare do anything to Lin Yi at all. It's a little embarrassing, but it's the truth. In this school, no, even with the gangsters in society, I'm sure no one can do anything to that Lin Yi kid. He's not even scared of guns. Pin Liang tried to explain himself. Since you're not afraid of embarrassing yourself, then I'll tell you. Zhou Ruoming sighed as he started complaining. I got slapped by Lin Yi in front of so many students and even the dean. What could I do? I couldn't beat him. He's so arrogant. Xiaoxiao was getting dizzy. It seemed like her investigation wasn't enough. Lin Yi was so strong, and she still had to fight him head-on? That was impossible. It seemed that fighting head-on wasn't going to work. She was a pretty fierce girl, but Lin Yi was even fiercer. Xiaoxiao didn't have the confidence to do anything to Lin Yi after hearing what Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming said. This Lin Yi doesn't have any weaknesses? Xiaoxiao frowned. Do you guys know if Lin Yi has a weakness? Weakness, Zhou Ruoming said, troubled. Probably Tang Yun. If you touch her, Lil sis Xiaoxiao, why don't you do some research and get Tang Yun for me? I'll do it for you. So Ruoming still didn't want to give up on Tang Yun. He didn't get to fulfill his wish last time, since Lin Yi ruined it, but he still hoped that he could have Tang Yun for himself. He didn't believe that Lin Yi would kill him. What was done, and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. Tang Yun would just follow him obediently, and Lin Yi probably wouldn't make things difficult for him, for Tang Yun's sake. No, Xiao Xiao rejected him flatly. She wanted to cause trouble for Lin Yi, but she wanted Lin Yi to give in and teach her how to fight and drive. If she really did anything to Tang Yun, then Lin wouldn't be able to teach her anything, and the two would become mortal enemies. Ugh, then I have no other choice. So Roming shook his head. I don't have any good ideas myself. Pin Liang didn't know what Lin Yi's weakness was. He would have done it himself if he knew. Xiao Xiao cursed the two of them inwardly. They were useless, a waste of time. On the way back to school with Tang Yun, they were on the fast lane on the left. He didn't expect to bump into someone who was going against the traffic. When they got on the viaduct, Lin Yi frowned. There were cars on the left and right, and changing lanes was impossible. Even if he didn't think about himself, he had to think about Tang Yun. Lin Yi turned on the high beam, wanting the car to go back to the right lane, but what Lin Yi didn't expect was that the car didn't slow down and go back. Instead, it copied Lin Yi and flashed the high beam, and it was a modified hernia lamp. If it weren't for Lin Yi's good eyesight, he would have been blinded. Lin Yi had no other choice. If this continued, the two cars would crash into each other. Tang Yun was already screaming in fear. Lin Yi suddenly turned the steering wheel to the right and pulled the handbrake. The van swerved in a beautiful arc, and the back of the van smashed into the front of the car. Although Lin Yi had carefully controlled the angle and force, there was still a loud sound. Tang Yun, on the other hand, was fine. Zhou Qiandi had just gotten a brand new BMW a few days ago, and his son had given him a custom license plate. It was a very cool license plate. SB. At first, Qiandi wanted a license plate that was all 8s. He thought that Zhou Ruoguang's license plate didn't have any 8s or SIXS in it, and it was all in Western languages. But Zhou Ruoguang said that 888 and 00544 weren't popular anymore. Those were outdated. License plates nowadays were about individuality. Only with a personalized license plate would it be cool when you go out. The 888 and 666 on the street didn't have as many people turning their heads to look at them. The only ones that did were the SB. Qiandi didn't think much about it, since his son said that the license plate was cool and unique. Then he'd use it. What he didn't expect was that it really was cool. Almost 100% of the people on the street turned their heads to look at him, and some even took out their phones to take pictures of him enviously. This satisfied Tiandi's vanity. There were even 2 drivers on the street who got too excited when they saw his license plate and crashed into each other. This gave Tiandi an indescribable sense of honor. Even when he was driving on the wrong side of the road, many cars would make way for him. No one dared to fight him head-on, but today some idiot had crashed his brand-new car. Tiandi panicked, jumping out of the car to pull on Lin Yi's door. Get the fuck out of the car! Are you blind or what? Do you even know how to drive? I have such a cool license plate. How dare you crash it? Lin Yi paused. He didn't expect someone to be this cocky even when driving on the wrong side of the road. He couldn't help but look at the license plate and almost burst out laughing when he saw it. What a unique license plate! What are you laughing at? There's no use laughing, you little bastard. You ruined my new car. Pay me 100,000 kwai, or you're not leaving. Tiandi was having a great time, planning on taking his car out for a walk whenever he had nothing better to do, but Lin Yi crashed his car into it. How many days would it be before he could show off his cool license plate? You crashed my car on the wrong side of the road, and you're asking me for money? Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at the familiar-looking man in front of him. Where had he seen him before? Lin Yi's memory wasn't bad, but it wasn't worth remembering small fries and small fries. He couldn't remember who this small fry was. How much is a bun like you worth? Don't think I don't know that you crashed my car on purpose. Trying to drift with me? I'm telling you, it's no use. If you don't pay me today, don't even think about leaving. Tiandi didn't lack money, but he was pissed off today. He wanted to make things difficult for Lin Yi, who told him to crash his cool car. All right, stop wasting time. You crashed my car, and I'm not asking you for money anymore. Let's go our separate ways. I'm in a hurry. Lenny got out of the car and looked at his van. There was only a dent in the back, so he smashed it a few times and straightened the metal. Chapter 4:18. He really didn't dare. Ha. Lin E shrugged. I just smoothed out the metal on my car. How am I trying to scare you? Just you wait. Don't leave if you dare. Tianyi humphed coldly before pulling out his phone. Ruoguang, where are you? I'm in the North District on Southern Titanium Road. My car was hit by someone, and this guy doesn't want to pay up, even using his fist to scare me. Fine, I'll wait for you. Hurry up. Lin E frowned. Since the guy didn't want to let this go, then he'd deal with it. Lin E pulled out his phone, as well, and called Lingshan. Lingshan was quite surprised to see Lin Yi's call. She thought that Lin E had thought of a solution this quickly. She picked up, surprised. Lin E, you got a solution? No, someone ran into me on the wrong side of the road. Come take a look. Lin E said faintly. Ran into you? Are you all right? Lingshan paused. She needed Lin Yi's help right now, and if something were to happen to Lin E, then the rescue mission would be over. I'm fine. They're trying to scam me and they're trying to scare me. Lin E said, You're coming to me for something like this? Can't you solve it yourself? Lingshan found Lin Yi's words funny and annoying at the same time. You're coming to me for something like this? Aren't you supposed to be capable? All right, I'll smash his car and beat him up. Lin E said, Lingshan smiled bitterly. All right, wait for me, I'll go over now. If Lin E were to smash someone's car, he'd probably end up in the police station. She'd be the one in trouble then. So Lingshan had no choice but to agree. Southern Titanium Road. Lin E smiled. If they get here before you come, I'll have to do it. All right, I got it. Lingshan humphed, afraid that Lin E would cause trouble for her. Don't be rash. Miss Braindead is coming, Lingshan added helplessly. Heh, all right. Only now did Lin E realize that Lingshan had a cute side to her. This violent, brain-dead girl wasn't completely useless. It doesn't matter who you go to. I'm telling you, you're dead meat today. Don't even think about leaving if you don't get 100,000. Tianyi threatened, pointing at Lin E. This was his newly bought BMW. It had been driven for less than half a month, but it was hit by Lin E. The headlights were broken, which made him very distressed. Therefore, he had to make Lin E pay the price. The roar of an engine was heard, accompanied by the earth-shattering subwoofer DJ music. A motorcycle quickly drove over and stopped between the BMW and the van. Tianyi was overjoyed. His son was here, and the person who hit his car was dead meat. Dad, what's going on? Who hit you? So Ruoguang jumped off the motorcycle and took charge. He crashed my car and didn't pay up. I'll kill him. That's the little bastard. Beat him up first, then smash his car and make him pay 100,000. Tianyi smiled coldly as he pointed at Lin E and gave the order. Tianyi was going crazy with anger. His brand new BMW, with a cool license plate, was destroyed by this kid with a van. He wouldn't be able to calm down if he didn't teach him a lesson. Besides, Tianyi hadn't been in a good mood for the past 2 days. He had his eyes on a girl in the company and was about to get her when her boyfriend came out and ruined his plans. Who? Just you? Hey? Zhou Ruoguang was about to teach the kid with the van a lesson when he turned around and saw Lin E. Zhou Ruoguang had better eyesight than his old man Tianyi. Tianyi didn't recognize Lin E, but Zhou Ruoguang recognized Lin E right away. How come it's you? Before Lin E could reply, Zhou Ruoguang grabbed his father's arm and pulled him to the side. He whispered, Dad, why did you piss him off again? I can't wait to avoid him. And now you're pissing him off. Aren't you just looking for trouble? Who? You know this kid? Tianyi paused. Even the men who came with Zhou Ruoguang were taken aback. They didn't know why Zhou Ruoguang would say something like that. Isn't he the one who threw you out of the hospital room? Zhou Ruoguang smiled bitterly. Dad, just apologize to him. Don't cause trouble. This kid isn't easy to deal with. Apologize? How can you do that? I don't believe he can fight four hands with two fists. You have so many people with you. What's there to be afraid of? Tiandi frowned. He was a celebrity, after all, and now he had to apologize to a little brat after getting hit by a car on the street. What face would he have left if word got out? How could he take that? Then find someone else. Dad, I don't want to die yet. So Ruoguang shook his head. Lin Yi had already traumatized him last time, and he couldn't bring himself to go against Lin Yi at all. You're just a piece of trash that can't be helped. Tiandi humphed coldly. Even your brother has more balls than you. I'll ask your brother to take care of this kid next time. Zhou Ruoguang kept his head down and didn't say anything. He really didn't dare do anything to Lin Yi. It wasn't an act, and so he pretended not to hear anything Tiandi said. Trash. Tiandi was infuriated. He was about to say something else when a police siren sounded not far away. A police car sped over and stopped beside Tiandi's BMW, its lights flashing. Ling Shan let out a sigh of relief when she saw that everyone was alive and well. She'd rushed through the red lights all the way here because she was afraid that Lin Yi would cause trouble for her. Luckily, Lin Yi didn't hit anyone. All of you, follow me back to the police station. Ling Shan's heart was in her throat the whole time, and she was naturally furious. She pointed at Tiandi and Lin Yi. Tiandi wasn't expecting a police officer to show up all of a sudden. He frowned. Why was there a police officer here when he didn't even call the police? Were they just passing by? What a busybody. I say, comrade, I have friends in the traffic police. You don't have to worry about this anymore. We can handle this ourselves. Tiandi waved his hand at Ling Shan. As far as he was concerned, Ling Shan was young and a policewoman. She was just an intern who just graduated, so he didn't really care about her. She was quite pretty, and her body was hot as well. But Tiandi wasn't stupid enough to flirt with a policewoman. He didn't want to go to jail yet. Chapter 419. I'll give you a mission. All right. Give me a minute. I'll make a call. Tiandi pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Hello? Wang bro? I'm so Tiandi. I got into a car accident on Jinan Road and was about to settle it privately when a police officer came over. Right? Can you talk to her? All right. I'll give her the phone. With that, Tiandi handed the phone to Ling Shan. Answer the phone. Ling Shan looked at Tiandi with a half smile as she took the phone. Hello, I'm Ling Shan. Who's this? Song. Captain Song? The guy was just about to say something when he heard Ling Shan's name. Everyone in Songshan knew about Ling Shan from the criminal police team. After all, who would dare go against her? He couldn't possibly order a criminal police captain around, could he? Plus, since Ling Shan was keeping an eye on Tiandi, it might be some big case. Maybe he was doing some illegal business. He had to draw a line between him and Ling Shan as soon as possible. With that in mind, Wang Bro said, It's fine, Captain Song. I won't disturb you anymore. Ling Shan handed the phone back to Tiandi, who didn't hear what Wang Bro was saying. I'm Ling Shan. He thought that everything was settled and was about to thank Wang Bro when he realized that the call had been hung up. Tiandi didn't think much of it, thinking that Wang Bro was busy. Wang Bro told you, right? You can leave now, little comrade. Don't stick your nose in other people's business. Dad. Zhou Ruoguang quickly pulled Tiandi back. Tiandi didn't know Ling Shan, but how could Zhou Ruoguang not know her? As the head of the North District's gangsters, it'd be a waste if he didn't know the criminal police captain. His face paled as he watched his father lecture him. What are you doing? Tiandi glared at his son. What do you want? Dad, she's Captain Song from the crime squad. Zhou Ruoguang said carefully. Wah. Tiandi froze like an idiot. She She's the captain of the criminal police force? Are you leaving or not? I don't need to do anything. Do I? Ling Shan said as she pulled out the handcuffs. Let's go. Let's go then. Tiandi's face was grim. He didn't think that he'd pissed off the captain of the criminal police. If he didn't leave now, the captain would probably pull out a gun. It's none of my business. I'm just passing by. Zhou Ruoguang didn't want to go to the police station. You're going too. You are illegally driving an unlicensed modified motorcycle, and I suspect that you are trying to gather a crowd to cause trouble. Ling Shan didn't give Zhou Ruoguang the chance to explain. I know you. You can run, but you can't run. You can choose to run. I won't run. Ha! I'll cooperate with the investigation. So Ruoguang smiled miserably with a bitter face. Thank you, Miss Braindead. Lin Yi was quite grateful for Ling Shan's help, although Ruoguang's presence reminded him of who Tiendi was. Getting rid of them would be a piece of cake, but Ruoguang's presence reminded him of who Tiendi was. Ling Shan's speed, however, made Lin Yi think that she wasn't bad. No, you're coming with me. Ling Shan was about to explode. You can call me Miss Braindead in private, can't you? Calling me that in front of so many people. How am I supposed to back down? She wasn't going to let Lin Yi get away with it. I want to go too. Lin Yi pointed at his nose, speechless. He was about to say something when Tang Yun spoke up first. Let's go. We have to cooperate with the investigation. It's our duty. Tang Yun was a good kid. Naturally, she wouldn't reject going to the police station. Besides, it's not our fault. It's their fault. We'll be able to explain ourselves in the police station. Huh? All right. Lin Yi nodded, a bitter smile on his face. Tang Yun was a good kid, after all. Lin Yi didn't care what Ling Shan said, and he'd just leave. He didn't believe that Ling Shan would come after him. Pho. Ling Shan breathed out in relief, too. She'd blurted out those words in a fit of anger, not thinking about the consequences at all. She regretted it immediately after. Since when had Lin Yi ever given her any face? Wasn't she just asking to be humiliated if she ordered him around? If Lin Yi left, she'd be in an even worse position in front of Zhou Tiendi and his son. This was even more serious than the Miss Braindead from before. Now that Tang Yun said that she wanted to go to the police station, Ling Shan breathed out in relief. At the same time, she felt grateful for Tang Yun, but at the same time, she was annoyed at Lin Yi for listening to Tang Yun and taking care of her. She wasn't any worse than Tang Yun, was she? She wasn't any weaker than Tang Yun in terms of looks and height, and her body was several times hotter than Tang Yun's as well. Lin Yi was a blind man. How could he be so rude to her? Ling Shan got angrier the more she thought about it. Why was Lin Yi so gentle to Tang Yun and treating her like this? Did he hate her that much? She had to be Miss Braindead to ask for his help. You guys follow me in the car. Ling Shan got into the police car, and Lin Yi, Tiendi, and the others followed behind as they made their way to the police station. Zhou Tiendi didn't know about the relationship between Lin Yi and Ling Shan, but he was overjoyed to hear Lin Yi call Ling Shan Miss Braindead. This was going to be fun. This Lin Yi was probably going to get beaten up, wasn't he? But Tiendi didn't plan on letting Lin Yi go so easily. On the way to the police station, he called his youngest son, Zhou Ruoming. Hey, Ruoming, are you at school? Tiendi had always told Zhou Ruoming to study hard in school, not letting him get involved in fights. But this time, he was really pissed off. His eldest son, Zhou Ruoguang, was too much of a coward. He couldn't even teach someone a lesson. But his youngest son was a bold and ruthless character. He had always told him to study hard, but Tiendi knew what kind of person he was. Dad, I'm at school, studying. Ruoming had just finished his meeting with Xiao Xiao, and his father's phone call made him jump. It wasn't checking on him, was it? He quickly explained himself. All right, stop bullshitting. Tiendi scolded. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? I'll give you a mission. Go to your Uncle Yan's villa in the northern suburbs and ask him to stop someone in front of the police station. I'll send you that person's information later. Ah, me? So Roaming paused. He didn't think that his father would ask him to do something like this. Didn't he always ask his big brother to do it? Plus, it was his first time asking him to take Uncle Yen on a mission. That was too awesome. Chapter 4:20. Ambush and Interception. Yes, you're the one. Tiandi was about to explode from anger. He wouldn't have asked Zhou Ruoming to do this otherwise. He couldn't take it anymore, especially after learning that Lin Yi was the one who'd thrown him out of the hospital room the other day. He had to teach Lin Yi a lesson. All right, I'll be right there. Zhou Ruoming nodded quickly, thinking that it'd be great if he could bring Uncle Yen to teach Lin Yi a lesson. With Uncle Yen there, beating up Lin Yi would be child's play. Of course, Zhou Ruoming didn't know that the crippled Heibao bro was a golden class master as well. He wouldn't have thought so otherwise. Tiandi sighed softly as he listened to Ruoming's excited tone. His youngest son was quite the ruthless one. Did he make the wrong decision back then? If he'd let his older son study hard and let his younger son mingle in society, that would have been a good choice, but he'd already made the wrong choice. He'd have to make the best of it. Uncle Yen didn't usually use his phone, nor did he use the phone in his room. He was a master of the world, and Zhou Ruoming wouldn't have had to go invite him personally otherwise. But Tiandi didn't mind. He was a master, after all, and it was normal for a golden class master like Uncle Yen to be different. Moreover, Uncle Yen was right. He was a fugitive, and living in seclusion was the right thing to do in case someone discovered him. So Ruoming quickly ran out of the school, hailed a taxi, and rushed to the villa in the northern suburbs. Uncle Yen knew Zhou Ruoming and didn't ask much after hearing that it was an order from Zhou Ruoming. He put on a low-brimmed hat and hurried out the door with Zhou Ruoming. Uncle Yen was a golden class master who wandered between his sect and the underworld. He'd been doing robberies for his sect's funds, but he'd been wanted by the police once. Luckily, Tiandi had saved him, and so he stayed in Songshan, promising to do 3 things for Tiandi before leaving. He had done 2 before, and this was the last one. Once he was done, he could leave and continue his robbery. Beep, beep. So Ruoming received a message from Tiandi, the license plate number and model of the van written on it. After Zhou Ruoming told Uncle Yen about it, the two of them stood guard on the road in front of the police station. Ling Shan didn't make things difficult for Lin Yi when they arrived at the police station. She knew that Lin Yi didn't care about her at all, and that he was only here because of Tang Yun. Therefore, they only gave Lin Yi a statement and let Lin Yi and Tang Yun leave. Ling Shan, sis is a nice person. Why do you always call her that? Tang Yun didn't understand why Lin Yi would call Ling Shan a brain-dead girl. Wasn't Lin Yi a little too bold? He dared to call Ling Shan a brain-dead girl. And the weirdest thing was that Ling Shan didn't refute it even though she was angry. Ha! She's too troublesome, asking me for help all the time. Lin Yi shrugged and didn't say anything else on the topic. Suddenly, the jade on his chest jumped twice, and Lin Yi's face changed. He slowed down the car. Danger? Danger? Tang Yin paused, but before she could ask anything, a shadow floated over and stood not far from Lin Yi's car. Early phase golden class? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He knew the opponent's strength level, but he didn't know why this early phase golden class master would appear here. From the looks of it, he was here for him. But who sent him? Zihua? Obviously not. He'd already killed his late phase golden class master. Sending another early phase golden class was the same as sending himself to death. He believed that Zihua wasn't that stupid. Zhongfabai? Probably not. He'd even sent Heibao Bro to prison. Jin Gubang? The only possibility that Lin Yi could think of was him. But in the next moment, Lin Yi realized that he was wrong. The person who jumped out after this early phase golden class master wasn't Jin Gubang, but Zhou Ruoming. Zhou Ruoming, on the other hand, was stunned when he saw Lin Yi and Tang Yun in the car. He almost burst out laughing. He recognized Lin Yi's van, but he couldn't remember Lin Yi's car plate number. Uncle Yan's eyes were sharp, and he saw Lin Yi's car coming over first, so he jumped out. It was only now that Zhou Ruoming realized that the person his father wanted him to stop was Lin Yi. In an instant, Zhou Ruoming's entire body was filled with excitement and excitement. He'd been worrying about how to deal with Lin Yi, and imagined that Uncle Yen would help him, but Zhou Ruoming knew that it was impossible. He didn't expect it to become reality. "Ha ha, Lin Yi, it's you?" Zhou Ruoming laughed loudly. "You didn't expect this, did you? You didn't expect this day to come, did you? Lin Yi, classmate, who asked you to pretend. This time, I'll let you die. Who do you think you are, trying to steal Tang Yun from me? Leave Tang Yun here today, and I'll spare your life." Lin Yi looked at Zhou Ruoming, stunned. Wasn't this guy too naive? Did he think he was invincible just because he got a golden class master? Not to mention the early phase of the golden class. Even if it was the late phase of the golden class, he still had the strength to fight. Ever since he completed the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, Lin Yi's strength was comparable to the late phase of the golden class, and he could even fight a mystic class master in the early phase. "Did you eat too many retarded pills?" Lin Yi looked at Zhou Ruoming as if he was looking at an idiot. Even a retarded person wouldn't be like you, right? You're not just a normal retarded person. You're too retarded. Miss Retarded is 10,000 times smarter than you. Ha. Tang Yun, of course, knew who Lin Yi was talking about. She couldn't help but laugh when she heard Lin Yi's words. Zhou Ruoming couldn't help but stare blankly. His desire to take Tang Yun for himself grew stronger. It would be a waste to give such a good girl to Lin Yi. Miss Retarded? Zhou Ruoming didn't know who Miss Retarded was, but he knew that Lin Yi's words weren't good. He gritted his teeth. "Lin Yi, it's useless for you to say anything now. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I won't be polite anymore. Uncle Yen, kill him. Leave that girl here." Zhou Ruoming was suspected of falsifying the imperial edict. So Qiandi only asked him to teach Lin Yi a lesson, but Zhou Ruoming changed it to kill Lin Yi. Slap. Lin Yi slapped Zhou Ruoming's face again. "I told you to stop thinking about Tang Yun. Do you have a bad memory, or are you deaf?" Chapter 4:21. Effortless Uncle Yen nodded slightly and threw a punch at Lin Yi. In his eyes, Lin Yi was fast, but he was still a normal person. One punch from him would be enough to finish him off. Slap. Zhou Ruoming was shocked, and so was Uncle Yen. Lin Yi's slap landed on Zhou Ruoming's face again, completely ignoring Uncle Yan's punch. He didn't even try to dodge. "Are you retarded? You found a sickly old man to deal with me? Retarded pills are delicious, but you can't eat too much of it. I've never seen someone as retarded as you." Lin Yi shook his head. Uncle Yen almost laughed out loud after the shock. Ignorance was bliss. He was an early phase golden class master, and he was just a sickly old man in Lin Yi's eyes. It was a fact that he was sickly. His body hadn't been healthy since he was young, and he'd only been able to reach the early phase of golden class at most. There wasn't much progress, and that was why he'd volunteered to be the vanguard of his family's sect, coming to the mortal world to steal money to support his family's expenses. But that was only when compared to the other people in his family. This kid in front of him dared to call himself an old man. Uncle Yan's blood rushed to his head as he increased the strength of his fist, preparing to kill Lin Yi with one punch. But before his fist could reach Lin Yi, a crisp slap sounded. Uncle Yen stumbled and fell to the ground, 5 red marks on his face. "You think you're something, don't you?" You're an early phase golden class master. So what? Don't you think it's embarrassing for an old man like you to bully two young people like us? With that, Lin Yi stomped on Uncle Yan's head, deforming the left side of the man's cheek. Even his teeth fell out. Lin Yi's words made Zhou Ruoming and Tang Yin sweat. They've heard of young people bullying old people, but they've never heard of old people bullying young people. However, Uncle Yen didn't think that there was anything wrong with Lin Yi's words. According to Tang Yun and Zhou Ruoming's understanding, it was only applicable in the common world, not in the Wulian world. In the martial arts world, the older one was, the more profound their skills were. If an old man bullied a young man, it would be criticized by others as bullying the young. However, was he bullying the weak? Uncle Yen was on the verge of tears. He had really misjudged him. Not only had this young man seen through his strength at a glance, but he had also beaten him up so effortlessly. He was an early phase golden class master, but he was stepped on like a dead dog. He didn't even have a chance to fight back. According to this situation, the young man was at least a middle phase golden class master, or even a late phase golden class master. Uncle Yen, what are you doing? Don't worry, there's no one here, just kill him. So Ruoming didn't understand the situation. He thought that Uncle Yen was pretending to be weak, pretending that he was bullied by Lin Yi so that he could kill Lin Yi. Although that would achieve his goal, it didn't feel good no matter how he looked at it. It wasn't as satisfying as killing Lin Yi directly, so Zhou Ruoming reminded Uncle Yen anxiously. He couldn't be blamed for thinking that way. In his eyes and heart, early phase golden class masters were like gods, a symbol of invincibility. He once heard from his father, Zhou Tiandi, that it took several armed policemen to barely control Uncle Yen. What did that mean? If it was one-on-one, Uncle Yen was invincible. Although Zhou Ruoming didn't know what early phase golden class was like, he felt that it had to be stronger than Lin Yi. No matter how good Lin Yi was, he was just a normal person. How could he compare to a master of the martial arts world? Even if Lin Yi beat Heibao Bro to a pulp, Heibao Bro was just a gangster. No matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be stronger than a golden class master. That was why Zhou Ruoming could say something so stupid. Uncle Yen heard Zhou Ruoming's words and cried in his heart. Didn't you see the situation? Did you think I wanted to be stepped on? I had no choice but to be stepped on. The opponent's strength was obviously much higher than mine. I'm no match for him. Zhou Ruoming, how did you know I was here? Lin Yi didn't forget to ask Zhou Ruoming as he stepped on Uncle Yen. Lin Yi, don't be so arrogant. When Uncle Yen shows his power, you'll be dead. Zhou Ruoming, the idiot, still didn't see the situation clearly. He still thought that Uncle Yen could kill Lin Yi. You crashed my dad's car and broke my brother's arm. I brought Uncle Yen here to stop you. Oh, that idiot from before was your dad. Lin Yi realized. No wonder Zhou Ruoming knew where he was. So he was Zhou Tiandi's son, Zhou Ruoguang's brother. It was like the saying went, don't enter the same door if you're not a family. A family of idiots. Uncle Yen, what are you doing? Hurry up and kill this kid. Zhou Ruoming was confused when he saw that Uncle Yen hadn't exploded yet. Jiao Lao, there are too many people here. It's not easy to kill this old man. Is there a way to cripple him? Lin Yi asked Jiao Yazi in the Jade. Of course. Jiao Lao's voice sounded. People like him, who reached golden class through immature training methods, have all sorts of flaws. How can they compare to your art of dragon mastery? As long as they haven't reached the earth class, they will have a weak point. Once you break through their weak point, they'll basically be crippled unless they retrain their body and enter golden class through physical arts. Then where's his weak point? Lin Yi was surprised and happy after hearing Jiao Lao's words. I don't know, Jiao Yazi said. Lin Yi almost fell down. Even Jiao Yazi didn't know. But generally, the weak point of golden class is near the dantian. Unless it's a very special physical practitioner. Jiao Yazi's next words gave Lin Yi hope again. Bang! Lin Yi's foot landed on Uncle Yan's dantian, and Uncle Yan let out a blood-curdling scream before fainting. His whole body was like a deflated balloon, and he slumped to the ground. Lin Yi knew that he had broken Uncle Yan's weak point and directly crippled him. The moment he kicked, Lin Yi could feel the true energy in Uncle Yan's body quickly leaking out until it disappeared. Just like what Jiao Lao said, Lin Yi could no longer feel Uncle Yan's strength in his eyes. Uncle Yan was no different from an ordinary old man. Chapter 4:22. He's mute. A chill rose from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. So Ruoming looked at Lin Yi in horror. What are you doing? Don't come any closer. Pa. Another slap landed on Zhou Ruoming's face. This time, Lin Yi used more strength, and Zhou Ruoming's right tooth fell out, and the corner of his mouth cracked. You killed Uncle Yan? Zhou Ruoming found it unbelievable. An early phase golden class master was like a god. How could Lin Yi kill him with just a few kicks? How was this possible? No, I'm not like you, who dares to shout about killing me at the drop of a hat. I'm actually very timid. As Lin Yi spoke, he slapped Zhou Ruoming's face again. Zhou Ruoming's face was almost swollen like a pig's head. Misunderstanding. Boss Lin Yi, it was actually my dad who asked me to bring Uncle Yan to look for trouble with you. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just a messenger. Please don't look for trouble with me. So Ruoming knew that he couldn't outrun Lin Yi. Running was equivalent to seeking his own death. He had no choice but to kneel on the ground. Boss Lin Yi, it really has nothing to do with me. That's not what I'm talking about. Lin Yi shook his head. I'm talking about your intentions towards Tang Yun. Lin Yi stepped on Ruoming's face, and Ruoming let out a cry of pain. Ah! I've already said that Tang Yun is my woman. You're still thinking about her? Do you want to die? Lin Yi felt that if he didn't teach Zhou Ruoming a lesson, he wouldn't know that there was such a thing as death in this world. Ah! Ruoming screamed as he held his head. Boss Lin, I won't do it again. I've lost my mind. I won't do anything to Tang Yun anymore. Please let me go. Lin Yi, stop kicking. What if someone dies? Tang Yun was shocked by Lin Yi's craziness, but Lin Yi was doing this for her. Tang Yun felt sweet inside. As long as she was with Lin Yi, he would protect her no matter what happened, however. Although Tang Yun hated Zhou Ruoming, she couldn't beat him to death. She didn't want Lin Yi to go to jail because of this. She quickly stopped Lin Yi. He won't die. He's far from death. At most, he'll become an idiot, but it'll save him medicine. He won't have to spend money on stupid pills every day. He'll just become an idiot. Lin Yi smiled. No, I don't want to become an idiot. Lin Yi boss, let me go. So Ruoming was about to cry. He'd rather die than become an idiot. Scram. Lin Yi said faintly. Yes, I'll scram. I'll scram now. So Ruoming didn't dare to get up and run. Who knew if Lin Yi would use this as an excuse, in order to make sure that Lin Yi couldn't find anything wrong with him? Zhou Ruoming really started rolling on the ground. Tang Yun couldn't help but laugh at Zhou Ruoming's behavior. She didn't approve of Lin Yi using violence, but she had to admit that today was very satisfying. She got her revenge. If it weren't for Lin Yi, she'd still have to endure Zhou Ruoming's teasing and teasing every day. Who knew if she'd fall into his trap one day? Lin Yi looked at Uncle Yan on the ground and took out his phone to call Lingshan. Lingshan had just sent Zhou Tiandi and Zhou Ruoguang to the traffic police station. They didn't seem to have committed any crimes, but it was just a traffic violation. Lingshan didn't have the authority to do anything about it, so she handed them over. Her phone rang as soon as she got back to her office. She frowned when she saw the name Lin Yi. Did Lin Yi cause trouble again? Ling Shan didn't believe that Lin Yi could find a way to cure Bujia so quickly. The only possibility was that he was looking for her. She rubbed her throbbing temples and picked up the phone helplessly. Lin Yi, what's up? I got ambushed when I came out of the police station. I've subdued him already. Come and take him away, Lin Yi said. Wah, you got ambushed? Who? Ling Shan paused. So Tiendi sent me, I think. Lin Yi said faintly, hurry up, follow the road in front of the police station, and you'll see me. With that, Lin Yi hung up, pissing Ling Shan off. Was he ordering her around? How dare you order me? Ling Shan was pissed, but she couldn't refuse. She got up and went downstairs, driving to find Lin Yi. Isn't that an old man? Did so Tiendi send him? You didn't hit him with your car, did you? Ling Shan was very suspicious that Lin Yi had accidentally hit someone and blamed it on Tiendi, saying that the old man was one of Tiendi's men. He can stop you? Golden class early phase. Lin Yi shrugged. Can you be any more retarded? Golden class early phase. Ling Shan's mouth was wide open. She looked at the old man's face, and her face changed. A wanted criminal. The man in front of her was a wanted criminal. As the captain of the criminal police, Ling Shan would often look at pictures of wanted criminals. It didn't take long for her to recognize this old man in front of her. Yan Qiyuan, wanted for murder and robbery. He'd been wanted for more than 2 years, and now he was here. He's a wanted criminal, right? Lin Yi guessed from Ling Shan's expression. That's right. Ling Shan nodded, a flash of joy in her eyes. This Lin Yi was lucky enough to catch a wanted criminal. This Yan Qiyuan was indeed a golden class early phase. But from the looks of it, he'd been crippled by Lin Yi. He was about the same as He Bao. Lin Yi patted Qiyuan's body, waking him up. Qiyuan's face was still filled with pain and sorrow. He was a golden class early phase. And he'd been crippled just like that? How could there be such a powerful figure in the secular world now? Looking at Lin Yi's age, he was only 20, right? Crack. Ling Shan took out her handcuffs and cuffed Qiyuan. She didn't feel any danger, but Qiyuan was still a golden class early phase. Ling Shan didn't dare treat him lightly. All right, I'm leaving. Lin Yi saw that he had nothing else to do and prepared to leave with Tang Yun. Wait, come back with me to make a statement. Ling Shan called out to Lin Yi. Can't you just say you caught him yourself? It's not the first time something like this happened. Lin Yi, naturally, didn't want to go back with Ling Shan, but the criminal's statement. Ling Shan thought to herself, if she said she caught him, what if Qiyuan said something? Chapter 4:23. Chapter 4:23. What to do, bah? Ling Shan paused as she looked at Lin Yi, stunned. She was a golden class master herself, and had guessed that Lin Yi was a golden class master as well, but she'd never seen something like Lin Yi's miraculous skill before. 2 random pats, and this guy turned into a mute? Uncle Yen didn't believe it as well. He'd never seen Lin Yi do something like this. Could it be acupuncture? That wasn't possible. He was a Wuling practitioner, and he'd never heard of anyone who knew how to use acupuncture. That was something that only existed in novels and dramas. It didn't exist in real life. He didn't believe Lin Yi's words, and was just about to say something to prove that he wasn't a mute when he realized that he couldn't speak. Ling Shan didn't know what to say as she looked at the Yi Yan Qiyuan. It seemed like Lin Yi had really turned this guy into a mute. It was too scary. A few random pats, and he turned into a mute? Oh, right, he can still write. Maybe I should turn him into an idiot? Lin Yi suddenly thought of that. Ugh, ugh. Yan Qiyuan shook his head furiously after hearing Lin Yi's words. Was this a joke? Turn himself into an idiot? What was the point of living then? He still had to pass the news to his family, and as for who'd caught him, he didn't have the heart to tell the police he was going to die anyway, and talking about it was just a waste of breath. See, he said he wouldn't talk. All right, that's all. I'm leaving. Lin Yi naturally didn't want to turn Yen Chiyuan into an idiot in front of Lingshan. He shrugged and pulled Tang Yun into the car. Lingshan looked at Lin Yi with a complicated gaze before getting into the police car with Chiyuan, heading back to the police station. Lingshan brought Yen Chiyuan into the police station just in time to see Zhou Tiandi and his son walking out of the station after receiving their punishment. Tiandi looked at Yen Chiyuan, who Lingshan was holding, and jumped in fright. A flash of shock and fear appeared in his eyes. How did Uncle Yen get captured by Lingshan? Didn't he ask Zhou Ruoming to lead him to intercept Lin Yi? Why, Mr. Zhou, do you know this murderer and robber? Lingshan looked at the shocked Tiandi. Naturally, she knew that Yen Chiyuan was Tiandi's doing, but Tiandi wouldn't admit to something like this without evidence. No, I don't know him. Tiandi shook his head and dragged Zhou Ruoguang away. He didn't dare to have anything to do with a murderer, even though they were clearly related. Lingshan smiled coldly as she watched Tiandi and Zhou Ruoguang leave. She turned around and bumped into Lu Wangli. Captain Song, you arrested someone? He's so old, what did he do? Wangli asked as he looked at the criminal in Lingshan's hands. Yen Chiyuan, he's a fugitive for robbery and murder. Lingshan said faintly to Lu Wangli, I'll leave him to you. Captain Song, you brought Yen Chiyuan back? Wangli's eyes were wide as he looked at Lingshan in awe. Lingshan had been solving many big cases recently, and her position in the police and criminal police had skyrocketed. She was now a qualified successor to Huaijuan. The voices that said that Lingshan only knew how to charge and not solve cases were all gone now. It seemed that everyone approved of Lingshan. Lu Wangli didn't like it when his superior was being talked about, and now they were all praising him. Lu Wangli was amazing. And now that Lingshan had brought back a fugitive, Lu Wangli felt even more proud. Lingshan, on the other hand, felt conflicted. Just what was her relationship with Lin Yi? Was it a partnership or an enemy? She really couldn't tell. Tiandi and Zhou Ruoguang went back to the car, and Tiandi clutched his chest in shock. Ruoguang, am I seeing things? Isn't that Uncle Yen? It's Uncle Yen. Zhou Ruoguang nodded. How did Lingshan get him? Isn't he an early phase golden class? I don't know. Let's call Ruoming first. Tiandi was desperate to find out the truth. Hello, Ruoming? What happened to you? How did the police get Uncle Yen? Tiandi called Zhou Ruoming, firing off a barrage of questions before Zhou Ruoming could say anything. Dad, it's big. Zhou Ruoming was scared out of his wits as well, hiding at home. He didn't even dare go to school. That kid's called Lin Yi. He's from our school. He's a master. He knocked Uncle Yen out with one slap and knocked him out with a few kicks. What? That guy's that strong? Tiandi was shocked when he heard Zhou Ruoming's words. What shocked him the most was that Zhou Ruoming knew Lin Yi. He's the tyrant of our school. No one dares mess with him now. Zhou Ruoming sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He didn't like me from the start, and I brought Uncle Yen to cause trouble for him today. You've really gotten me killed. Dad, I don't even dare go to school anymore. Tiandi's face paled instantly. He knew how strong Uncle Yen was, and how strong did someone have to be to take him down so easily? How did he end up messing with someone like that? Tiandi was scared just thinking about it. If Lin Yi really wanted to kill him, it'd be as easy as killing an ant. He'd even had to fight over a hospital room with him last time. He couldn't even imagine the consequences. Tiandi wasn't the one with the worst expression on his face, but Zhou Ruoguang. He'd heard what Tiandi said through the phone, and he was even more scared than Tiandi. Dad, I told you we couldn't mess with this guy, and you just had to do it. Now we're done for. He can kill us like a toy. What are we going to do in the future? You even told me to go teach him a lesson last time. It's a good thing I didn't go, or you'd be burning joss paper for me right now. All right, Ruoguang, don't be scared. Lin Yi is strong, but he didn't do anything to us, did he? He kept Uncle Yen and let Ruoming go, which means he doesn't want to bother with normal people like us. We just don't mess with him in the future and find a way to give him a red envelope. We'll have a feast to apologize to him. I don't think he'll hold it against us, will he? Tiendi was a smart man, and he immediately analyzed the situation. I guess that's the only way. So Ruoguang nodded. I was possessed last time, and I even wanted to flirt with the girl next to him. Man, I'm scared just thinking about it. Yeah, I remember what he looks like this time, and I even took a picture of it and saved it in my phone. We'll avoid him when we see him in the future, and if we can't avoid him, we'll be more respectful. They say you don't hit someone who's smiling at you, so we'll just suck up to him a little. He's a master. I don't think he'll hold it against us, right? Chapter 4:24. Xiao Xiao wants revenge. Xiao Xiao hadn't thought of a way to deal with Lin Yi yet, but she was a little embarrassed to face Lin Yi. She'd been drenched by him at noon, and Xiao Xiao was quite embarrassed. She'd never been in such an awkward situation in her life, and now she'd fallen into Lin Yi's hands. What surprised Xiao Xiao was that she didn't see Lin Yi when she returned to the classroom. She let out a breath of relief. Hey, pretty girl, you know my boss? Kong Xiaobo turned around, curious about Xiao Xiao's identity. It was obvious that she was here for Lin Yi, but he didn't want to ask Lin Yi. Now that Lin Yi wasn't in the classroom, he could ask Xiao Xiao. Lin Yi's your boss. Xiao Xiao wanted to find someone familiar with Lin Yi to get to know Lin Yi better. Yeah, I'm his follower. Kong Xiaobo said proudly, as if being Lin Yi's follower was something to be proud of. Oh. Xiao Xiao rolled her eyes and said to Kong Xiaobo, I'll tell you something in secret. Don't tell anyone, including your boss, Lin Yi. Xiaobo hesitated. He wanted to hear what Xiao Xiao was talking about, but he didn't want to hide it from Lin Yi. It wasn't a good idea. I won't tell you if you don't agree. Xiao Xiao saw Kong Xiaobo's hesitation and threw out a more important chip. It's about me coming to find your boss. As expected, Kong Xiaobo was interested, scratching his ears and cheeks as he hesitated. Then tell me. I won't tell my boss. Please don't tell me, or I'll be really embarrassed. Xiao Xiao looked at Kong Xiaobo, putting on a pitiful look. Don't worry, I'm a man of my word. I promise I won't tell the boss. Kong Xiaobo patted his chest and promised. But Kong Xiaobo wasn't an idiot. He promised not to tell Lin Yi, but he didn't promise not to tell Tang Yun. He'd just tell Tang Yun, and Tang Yun would tell Lin Yi, and it wouldn't have anything to do with him. Actually, I like Lin Yi. I transferred here because of him, Xiao Xiao whispered to Kong Xiaobo, blushing. Ha! Kong Xiaobo's eyes widened. You have a crush on my boss? And Xiao Xiao nodded. Don't tell anyone. Don't worry, I promised. Kong Xiaobo was in a difficult position now. This wasn't something he could tell Tang Yun. It'd be gossip. Hey, can you tell me about Lin Yi? I want to know more about him. As far as Xiao Xiao was concerned, Zhou Ruoming and Pinliang's information were all indirect. Only someone like Kong Xiaobo, who interacted with Lin Yi all the time, could be trusted. But, my boss has a girlfriend already. Your chances are really slim. Kong Xiaobo sighed. His boss was really lucky. All the girls who liked him were so pretty. It's okay, I don't care. I don't care about the title. I just want to be by his side quietly. I won't fight for anything. Xiao Xiao shook her head and said pitifully, Kong Xiaobo froze. There were girls like this in this day and age. Xiao Xiao wasn't bad at all. She could get any boyfriend she wanted, but she didn't care about the status and wanted to be with Lin Yi. His boss was outstanding, but Xiaobo was still very envious. He felt pity for Xiao Xiao. So what you're saying is that you want to be by his side quietly, only giving and not taking? And Xiao Xiao nodded. boss is here. We'll talk next time. Kong Xiaobo raised his head to see Lin Yi enter the classroom. He quickly shut his mouth. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun back to school. There wasn't any traffic on the way, but they were still a little late, only entering the school after the first afternoon class. What surprised him in the afternoon class was that Xiao Xiao, who'd changed her clothes, seemed to have forgotten about what happened in the washroom at lunchtime. She didn't bother him at all, didn't even bring it up. What surprised Lin even more was that the entire afternoon was quiet. Xiao Xiao didn't say anything to him. What surprised Lin was that Kong Xiaobo was looking at him in a weird way. It wasn't that Xiao Xiao didn't want to say anything, but she hadn't found a way to deal with Lin yet. She didn't want to let Lin go so easily. Getting drenched in Lin Yi's piss was the biggest humiliation she'd ever experienced in her life. She'd never been so humiliated, but Xiao Xiao couldn't find a way to teach Lin Yi a lesson right now. On one hand, she wanted Lin Yi to teach her how to drive, so she couldn't offend Lin Yi too much. For example, that stupid suggestion from Zhou Ruoming was something she couldn't accept. If she did anything to Tang Yun, then Lin Yi would become her mortal enemy, and that would ruin her original goal. It would be best if she could teach Lin Yi a lesson, but it wouldn't be too much of a loss. Just a little humiliation, just like how she did in the afternoon. When school was about to end, the homeroom teacher Lu came to the classroom and walked up to the podium. Everyone, quiet down. I have something to say. Tomorrow, our graduating class is going to have a tree planting event. There's an empty space behind the school, and it's where all the graduating students plant trees. We're about to graduate, and we'll be going our separate ways. In order to leave a memory for our old school, everyone can plant trees on this empty space. A few years later, when you return to your old school, it'll have a special meaning. Teacher Lu's words drew a round of applause from all the students present. The dull and boring life of a senior high student was filled with repetitive reading, questions, and tests. Now that there was such an activity, everyone naturally raised their hands to welcome it. There's no limit to the types of saplings. They're sold at the flower, bird, and fish market not far from the school. You can get them for a few kwai to a few hundred, depending on your financial ability. If you're really poor, you can donate a few kwai sapling from the class allowance, Teacher Lu said. Although there weren't any poor students in his class, he still had to say it according to tradition. Everyone expressed their support. Before graduation, most students wanted to leave a memory for their old school. After all, they were about to leave. Returning to their old school after a few years and seeing the sapling they planted with their own hands grow up was a different feeling. Chapter 425. Chapter 425. Shark hunting opportunity? What's so good about planting trees? Pin Liang didn't quite understand what Xiaofu was getting at. Liang bro, think about it. You can make a tree and decorate it with Menyao's name. Menyao definitely like it when she sees it. All girls like these. Gao Xiaofu said, look at the return of the Condor heroes. On Gua Xiang's birthday, Yanggua gave her a firework. As a result, she was so happy that she even pledged her life to him. Gave herself to him? Why did I think Gua Xiang became a nun? Pin Liang blinked. Ugh. Then she became a nun. I don't remember. Maybe I was looking at Dejinshi. Xiaofu said, a little embarrassed. I think that being a nun is for love. Anyway, it'll definitely work. You're saying that I should light a firework too? Pin Liang asked. Yeah, Liang bro. Haven't you heard of the Flare Silverflower Nightless Club? We'll give Meng Yao a Flare Silverflower Nightless Club. Xiaofu said. All right, it's settled then. I'll go buy a sapling. Pin Liang thought that it was a good idea. It was much easier than writing a letter of blood. At least he wouldn't have to hurt himself with the Flare Silverflower Nightless Club. This sapling needs to be special, too. It can't be the same as the others. If it's the same, then we won't be able to show how special we are. Xiaofu said, All right, I'll do some research and get an imported sapling. Pin Liang was very excited. Xiaofu had finally come up with a good idea. Liang bro, should we tell Xiao Xiao Lil Sis about this? She's the big sis of our class now. After all, we should at least tell her about this big thing we're doing, right? Xiaofu reminded. That's right, we should tell her about this in case Xiao Xiao Lil Sis has some plans against Lin Yi. It'd be bad if there were any conflicts. After school, Pin Liang invited Xiao Xiao to a corner of the school field, preparing to tell her about what Xiaofu had told him. Xiao Xiao patiently listened to Xiaofu's explanation. She wasn't interested in whether or not Pin Liang was going after Meng Yao. Her target was Lin Yi. That's it? What does that have to do with me? Xiao Xiao frowned. I thought you guys thought of a way to humiliate Lin Yi. Humiliating Lin Yi. Little sister Xiao Xiao, didn't you want to teach him a lesson? Why are you humiliating him again? Pin Liang paused. He'd thought that Xiao Xiao and Lin Yi had some sort of deep grudge, but it didn't seem like it. Why do you care what I want to do? Xiao Xiao humphed. I've embarrassed myself to death today, so I'm going to embarrass him. If that's the case, I have an idea. Gao Xiaofu's eyes lit up. What plan? Xiao Xiao looked at this useless advisor, not sure what he could say. Aren't we going to create a fireworks silver flower never sleeps? There'll be fireworks and firecrackers, and we'll give you a string of firecrackers, and you secretly hang them on Lin Yi's butt. Light it up, and Lin Yi's, but he'll be as humiliated as you can imagine. Xiaofu wasn't good at other things, but he could come up with some dirty tricks. Oh, Xiao Xiao started thinking about the feasibility of this plan. If done correctly, it was a good idea. Secretly hang the firecrackers on Lin Yi's back without him noticing, and when Pin Liang lit up the fireworks, they'd secretly light the firecrackers on Lin Yi's back, pretending that it was an accident. Even if Lin Yi wanted revenge, he wouldn't be able to find any evidence. Would he? Little sister Xiao Xiao, I think Xiaofu's idea isn't bad. Pin Liang naturally hated Lin Yi to the bone, and so he encouraged Xiao Xiao to do it the moment he heard that it could humiliate Lin Yi. Well, I'll think about it. Xiao Xiao wasn't as confident as Pin Liang was. She needed to study the possibilities of this plan. Yao Yao, are we going to plant trees tomorrow? Yushu was looking forward to this event. In fact, she was looking forward to anything new and interesting. Of course, we're going a few years later when we've all graduated, gotten married, and had kids. We'll bring them to visit our alma mater. We'll tell them that this is where their mom went to. It should be very educational. Meng Yao nodded seriously. Oh, then will our kids have the same dad? Yushu asked. Shu. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. She really wanted to crack open her best friend's skull and see what was inside. How could Yushu turn something as serious as this into a farce just like that? Yushu blinked. Open your mouth, Meng Yao ordered. No, never. Yushu shook her head. Why? Meng Yao paused. Yushu had always been an obedient girl. You pulled my tongue out. It hurts, Yushu said. You know it hurts, and you're still talking nonsense? Meng Yao humphed. Then I won't talk about it next time. Yushu promised. You always say next time. Next time. Next time. How many times will there be next time? Meng Yao didn't believe Yushu at all. Yao Yao, the original meaning of this sentence is tomorrow after tomorrow. How many times will there be tomorrow? Yushu said. Oh, then tomorrow it is. It's more or less the same. Who cares about tomorrow? Shu, you're changing the topic again. Meng Yao was speechless. Yushu had almost gotten away with it again. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Let's not talk about it for so long. We haven't gotten the saplings yet. Let's go buy some? All right. Meng Yao forgave Yushu for now. She had to learn to be tolerant with a best friend like this. Take a step back. Otherwise, she'd die of anger 10 times a day. Go get Lin Yi and tell him to drive with us. We can't fit the saplings in the car. Okay, shield bro. Yushu called Lin Yi at the top of her lungs. Lin Yi had gone back to her room after seeing Yushu and Meng Yao bickering. She was already used to the two's behavior, so she wasn't surprised at all. Lin Yi heard Yushu's call and walked out of the room. What is it? Shield bro, I want to eat shark meat again. Yushu said. Meng Yao almost fell off the sofa. Didn't she ask him to go buy saplings? Why was the shark meat involved again? Oh, they don't sell it on the market. Why don't you go catch one yourself? Lin Yi was speechless. Shark meat wasn't that tasty. Why did this Miss Chen like it? Chapter 4:26. Chapter 4:26. Tree shopping shoe. Are we going out to buy saplings? Meng Yao said through gritted teeth, holding back the urge to faint. Right. Then let's buy saplings first. Yushu nodded. Lin Yi, we're going out to buy saplings, and the car's pretty big. Should we go in your car? Meng Yao didn't let Yushu do it for her this time. She didn't really want to talk to Lin Yi, but she didn't know what to say after Lin Yi got into trouble with Xiao Xiao today. She was a little embarrassed. She was the one who'd caused all this trouble, and yet she'd asked Shu to text Lin Yi and ask if he was messing around. All right. Lin Yi nodded. How could he say no to the miss? Lin Yi asked, Are we leaving now? Yeah, we're leaving now. Meng Yao stood up and pulled Yushu along, getting ready to leave with Lin Yi. It was the first time the Miss and Miss Chen had been in Lin Yi's broken car, and they couldn't help but gasp at how broken it was. Shield bro, this car of yours, it can still be driven? Yushu couldn't understand how a car like this could still move, and it was moving pretty fast too. You know now whether it can drive or not, right? Lin Yi smiled. A follower like me would be lucky to have a broken car to drive. Oh, I'll give you my car then. I don't like driving anyway. Yushu said seriously. Meng Yao felt a little embarrassed. Lin Yi was her follower, and he didn't even have a car. Who knew what junkyard he'd gotten it from? She coughed. Lin Yi, I'll tell Faubert to buy you a business car tomorrow. It's fine. I'm pretty used to it. Lin Yi wasn't expecting the miss to be this sensitive. He just said it casually, and she wanted to buy him a car. Oh, Meng Yao naturally wouldn't try to convince Lin Yi otherwise. That Xiao Xiao didn't do anything to you today, did she? Man, why not? She took a photo of me going to the toilet to blackmail me, but I thought it was Zhong Pingliang, so I pissed her all over. That's a big grudge. Lin Yi didn't try to hide it. This was all because of him going out with the miss, so Meng Yao couldn't blame it on him if anything happened to Xiao Xiao in the future. You thought she was Zhong Pingliang and pissed her all? Meng Yao's eyes widened. She and Shu had gone to check the toilet when it rained last time, and the thought of Pingliang's pitiful face was hilarious. But how embarrassing would it be if it were a girl? Meng Yao's eyes were wide open. She'd gone to the toilet with Shu last time when it rained, and thinking about Zhong Pingliang's pitiful state was quite funny. But how embarrassing would it be if it were a girl? Meng Yao could imagine that if it were her, she'd probably want to die. There was no way Xiao Xiao would just let it go. Lin Yi didn't mind. Let her be. She'll leave when she's tired of revenge. She's just a little girl. Lin Yi didn't really care. Let her be. She'll leave when she's tired of revenge. She's just a little girl. I'm really sorry. I didn't think she'd go after you, Meng Yao said apologetically. Maybe I'll talk to her tomorrow. Tell her that it wasn't your fault. Meng Yao's face was a little red as she humphed. I'm a person who knows what's good and bad for me. Don't think that just because I spoke up for you, it means that I'll treat you well. I'm telling you, I actually still really hate you. Meng Yao blurted out in a panic, but regretted it immediately after. Did she really still hate Lin Yi? It didn't seem like it anymore. Lin Yi smiled. I know, but Xiao Xiao can't do anything to me. Don't go after her. in case the class finds out about our relationship. Meng Yao gritted her teeth at Lin Yi. In case the class finds out about our relationship, so what if they find out? What's there to be afraid of if I'm not even scared? What's the meaning of this? But Meng Yao understood that Lin Yi was saying this because he didn't want to put her in a difficult position, not because of himself. But Meng Yao was still angry. Any other boy would be more than happy to have a relationship with her. But why didn't this Lin Yi realize that at all? Could it be that he was so weak? Meng Yao didn't say anything, and the atmosphere in the car got a little heavy. Luckily, Yushu was there. Shield bro, do you think there'd be sharks in the flower bird fish market? Meng Yao really wanted to slap Yushu to death. Shu, do you think people would buy a shark to raise at home? Aren't they afraid of getting eaten by sharks? There are. Yushu nodded. For example, suicidal people. All right, you win. Meng Yao slapped her forehead. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the fish market and brought Meng Yao and Yushu inside. Follow closely. It's a messy place. There might be pickpockets. Oh, Yushu quickened her steps before slowing down again. I didn't bring any money. Shu, are you serious? You're not joking? Meng Yao's face changed upon hearing Yushu's words. No, Yao Yao, you know that I like to put my wallet in my bag. Yushu said, Look at my dress. Where's my wallet? I didn't bring any either. Meng Yao frowned. Lin Yi, did you bring any money? I did. Lin Yi said to himself. No wonder Faubert gave him a credit card. These two girls didn't bring any money when they went out. Then, I'll lend it to you. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. It'd be a wasted trip if Lin Yi didn't bring any money. Wow. Yao Yao, look. There really are saplings for sale here. There's so many different types. Yushu was dazzled as she walked in. Yao Yao, what should we plant tomorrow? Meng Yao shook her head. She wasn't an expert in plants, so she didn't know what to buy. Yao Yao, look over there. That tree looks special. Why does it need in foredrip? Yushu pointed at a few saplings not far away. I don't know, maybe it's sick. Meng Yao said, it's nutrient fluids. Some imported saplings need to be injected with nutrient fluids because of the difference in environment, or they won't survive. Lin Yi explained with a smile. Some high-class parks have these kinds of trees. This one looks interesting. Yao Yao, maybe we should buy this? Yushu found the fore tree quite interesting. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.